Chapter 825. Ba Siteng was stunned, but he still said stubbornly, "No matter what you say, you can't prove that traditional Chinese medicine is effective for mental diseases." Qin Haodong said, "Traditional Chinese medicine is broad and profound. Of course, it can also treat mental diseases. Now I'll show you the spiritual control of traditional Chinese medicine." Then he turned to Kelly next to him and asked with mind manipulating, "Which bank do you keep your money in?" Everyone else was stunned. They didn't know why Qin Haodong suddenly asked them about their savings. Why did you suddenly ask him about his savings? Even if he had money, he wouldn't tell you, all right? However, to everyone's surprise, Kelly obediently said, "Our family's money is all in Citibank." "How much?" "About $1 million. "What's the password of the bank?" 4876, Qin Haodong said again. "Well, give me the bank card of your family's deposit now." "Okay, please wait a moment," Kelly said and turned back to her room. A moment later, she took out a black bank card and handed it to Qin Haodong. Everyone was dumbfounded. What kind of magic was this? It could make people obediently tell all their secrets and directly hand over their bank cards. This was really too scary. Fortunately, Qin Haodong was a doctor, not a bad guy. Otherwise, he wouldn't need to rob. He just needed to use a little trick to make people give up all their money. Qin Haodong slapped the bank card in front of Ba Siteng. "Mr. Ba Siteng, what do you think of my spiritual control?" Ba Siteng was stunned. If Kelly was not his wife, he would really think that Kelly was Qin Haodong's agent. How could it be possible? Kelly had now recovered. She was very clear about what she had done, but she just couldn't control her actions. She immediately cried, "Honey, no matter what, you must ask Dr. Qin to treat our daughter. He is so powerful. If you don't agree, I'll divorce you." Ba Siteng slumped in the chair like a deflated ball. Qin Haodong's performance had completely destroyed his stubbornness about traditional Chinese medicine. After a moment of silence, he said, "Well, Dr. Qin, I agree to let you treat my daughter. If you can really cure Angel's autism, I agree to let the blood revival elixir enter the medical market of M country." In fact, until now, he only had 50% hope that Qin Haodong could cure Angel. After all, autism was too difficult to cure. Seeing that her husband finally agreed, Kelly took Qin Haodong's hand and said excitedly, "Dr. Qin, please cure my daughter. She is so poor. Don't worry. Give me half an hour and I'll return you a smart and lively angel." "Really? That's great," Kelly said excitedly. "Dr. Qin, what do you need me to do?" Qin Haodong said, "Prepare a quiet room for me and don't let anyone disturb me." "Nothing else." Kelly agreed and immediately followed Qin Haodong's arrangement. She emptied a room and brought the muddle-headed angel in. Qin Haodong said, "Well, you can go out." Owen said, "Dr. Qin, can I have a look? I'm very eager to see how you cure autism." "I'm sorry, Mr. Owen. Angel's disease is a bit special. It's really not convenient for you to watch. Besides, you can't learn my treatment techniques. There's no reference." When he came here, he found that Angel's head was surrounded by a black chi. It was not as simple as an ordinary disease, so it was not convenient for Owen to watch. "Well, I look forward to the good news of your success." Owen didn't say anything else. He followed the others out of the room and closed the door behind him. Qin Haodong set up several prohibitions in the room. At this time, the door was like an iron bucket. Even if there was a key outside, it could not be opened. After doing all this, he came in front of Angel and reached out to feel her pulse. Then, he swept his primordial spirit towards her head. Angel's head was shrouded in black chi, and there was a faint strange fluctuation in her sea of consciousness. Qin Haodong could be sure that this was the root of autism. However, this black chi was not the common yin chi in the past. It was extremely difficult to use ordinary magic to cure it. Moreover, it was related to Angel's mind. He did not dare to use the yin-yang mirror casually. Otherwise, even if he destroyed the black chi, Angel would become an idiot for life. After hesitating for a moment, he decided to follow the original plan and enter Angel's sea of consciousness through his nascent soul. This could be said to be the safest and most effective way to treat Angel, but there were some risks. When the nascent soul left the body, it could not be disturbed by anyone. Qin Haodong sat cross-legged and released his nascent soul. At this time, his nascent soul had grown to about 10 centimeters. It was crystal clear, like the ginseng fruit in the TV series. It looked extremely cute. However, the nascent soul was the condensation of the essence of a lifetime of cultivation. It could be said to be another small Qin Haodong. Even if his body was destroyed at this moment, he could use the nascent soul to cultivate again and cast a golden body. After the nascent soul came out of Qin Haodong's Baihui, it circled around Angel and instantly entered her sea of consciousness. After arriving here, Qin Haodong found that it was dark around him. He walked forward and came to the center of the sea of consciousness. He found that there was a dark small house. In the middle of the house, a beautiful little girl was sitting inside, shivering. This was Angel's soul. No wonder Angel suffered from autism and had never contacted the outside world. It turned out that her soul was trapped in this small house and she did not dare to go out at all. Just as Qin Haodong was about to approach the small house, a sudden gust of cold wind whistled. A large snake about 100 feet long flew over and opened its bloody mouth to swallow him. He had long known that this little girl was not born with autism, but someone had used such a sinister method in her sea of consciousness. With this big snake wreaking havoc outside, of course, Angel's soul did not dare to come out. Although Qin Haodong's nascent soul had left his body at this time, it had 80% of his cultivation. After a loud shout, the Xian Yuan sword appeared in the palm of his hand, turned into a huge sword of 10 feet long, and slashed at the big snake fiercely. The big snake seemed to realize the horror of the Xian Yuan sword. It turned its head and was about to escape, but Qin Haodong did not give it a chance to escape. The sword light flashed and directly cut off the huge snake's head. With a loud bang, the big snake of 100 feet long turned into black gas and dissipated. After the death of the big snake, Angel's sea of consciousness instantly became clear. It turned out that this big snake made of ghost was the source of the black gas here. Qin Haodong stepped into the small dark house and said to Angel in the corner, "Little girl, go out and play with me, will you?" Angel said timidly, "No, there's a horrible big snake outside. It will eat me." "Don't worry, I just killed that hateful guy. Look at how nice the sun is outside." "Really? Will it never come back?" Angel's soul was indeed a little girl of 6 or 7 years old, but her soul was trapped here and could not behave like a normal child. "It will never come back. Now go out and play games with me, will you?" Angel nodded and followed Qin Haodong out of the small dark house. When they came out, Qin Haodong smashed the small dark house with his sword, completely cutting off the possibility of Angel's autism relapse. In the primeval forest of America, in a pitch-black cave, a figure sat in the darkness, looking like a horrifying ghost. He was surrounded by skulls of all sizes. Suddenly, one of the skulls in front of him exploded, turning into a wisp of black smoke and dissipating. The black figure suddenly stood up and said in a dry voice, "Someone dares to break the magic of a dark wizard. If I find him, I will definitely imprison his soul for 100 years and never let him reincarnate." At this moment, a huge bat flew to the entrance of the cave and then turned into an elegant middle-aged man. "Great Wizard Sissy, Mr. President asked me to inform you to take the people of the Dark Wizard Alliance and go to the empire where the sun never sets. We are going to do something big." "I see. You go first." "I'll be there right away." "Then I'll go first." "Don't be late. You know Mr. President has a bad temper." After saying that, the middle-aged man turned into a bat again and flew away. The dark wizard stepped out of the cave, turned into a black light and disappeared. Kelly waited anxiously outside the room. As the seconds ticked by, she became more and more agitated. "Honey, do you think Dr. Qin can cure our daughter?" Ba Si-ting held his wife in his arms and comforted her. "Don't worry. We have done so many good things these years. God will protect us." Rowling said, "It's better to believe in Dr. Qin than in God. I believe he can cure Angel." Owen also said, "Yes, Dr. Qin's medical skills are amazing. Chinese medicine has many miracles that we can't imagine. I think he can bring us a miracle." While they were talking, the door suddenly opened. Everyone's eyes focused on the door. They saw Qin Haodong holding Angel's hand and walking out of the room. What was different from before was that Angel was no longer the doll she used to be. Her eyes were full of intelligence, and there was a faint smile on her face. Seeing Ba Si-ting and Kelly, she immediately ran to them happily. "Dad. Mom," it was just 2 ordinary calls, but Ba Si-ting and Kelly burst into tears. For so many years, their daughter had never called them like that. "My child, are you really cured?" Ba Si-ting, Kelly, and Angel hugged each other excitedly. "My daughter, my good daughter, call me Mom one more time." Kelly was so excited that she burst into tears. They had been running around to cure their daughter all these years, but nothing had worked. They had fallen into despair before. Unexpectedly, their daughter had completely recovered and become a normal and healthy child. Everyone gathered around, feeling happy for the Ba Si-ting family. Rowling said, "I told you, Dr. Qin can cure Angel." Owen sighed and said, "Dr. Qin, your medical skills are amazing. You are the god of medicine. Is there any disease that you can't cure?" At this time, Ba Si-ting recovered from his excitement. He stood up and said to Qin Haodong, "Dr. Qin, thank you for saving my daughter. I apologize for my prejudice against Chinese medicine and agree to let the blood revival elixir enter the medical market of M country." Qin Haodong secretly breathed a sigh of relief. He had worked so hard to get the approval of the blood revival elixir. But at this moment, the phone in his pocket rang. It was Donnie Randall. "Excuse me, I have to take this call." He walked to the side with the phone and heard Donnie Randall say excitedly, "Qin, there's news from Angel Pharmaceutical. Our people have found its headquarters." Chapter 826. Qin Haodong was overjoyed. He had 2 main purposes in coming to M country this time. One was to establish a branch of Tangmen Traditional Chinese Medicine Company, and the other was to uproot Angel Pharmaceutical. Now there was some progress in the pharmaceutical company. He had been worried about how to find the lair of Angel Pharmaceutical, but now Donnie Randall had brought him good news. It seemed that the intelligence network of the deep web was really powerful. It was almost omnipresent. Even the Xianyuan Pavilion had failed to do it before, but they had done it in a few days. He asked, "Where is their lair?" Donnie Randall said, "It's in Mickey Amusement Park in the downtown area of N City. The entrance is in a secret escape room. Our people have found that many people have entered the secret room to escape, but very few have come out. They often carry some daily necessities in. After careful investigation, we have confirmed that this is the lair of Angel Pharmaceutical." Qin Haodong asked again, "How accurate is the information?" Donnie Randall said with certainty, 100%. Since it was 100% the lair of Angel Pharmaceutical, Qin Haodong would not hesitate. He immediately began to deploy troops after leaving Ba Si-ting's home. As night fell, Mickey Amusement Park was completely closed. It was particularly quiet at night. When it was close to midnight, several figures appeared next to the escape room. They were the Marvel heroes who had recently become the topic of conversation. What was different from before was that there were 2 more people in the group. They were Lei Fu, the golden-haired Wolf King, and Chekhov, the big werewolf. This was arranged by Qin Haodong. Although Ma Wenjue and the others were strong, they could not compare with the werewolves in terms of offensive ability and destructive power. Therefore, Lei Fu was sent to be the vanguard of the attack. After everything was ready, Lo and Chekhov let out a long howl towards the full moon in the sky. The two of them instantly completed their berserk transformation and dashed towards the escape room from the left and right. Lei Fu, who had transformed, punched the game room. His current cultivation was comparable to that of a saint-level cultivator in the body refining stage. His punch was so powerful that half of the game room, which was made of steel and concrete, collapsed in an instant. On the other side, Chekhov did the same. Although his cultivation was a little lower than Lei Fu's, he was also very destructive. He tore the game room on the other side into pieces in a few seconds. Angel Pharmaceutical had left guards in the game room, but they were killed in an instant by the terrifying attack of the two big werewolves, so they didn't even have time to send out any alarm. After tearing down the house, a passageway to the basement was revealed in the middle of the playroom. Lo took the lead and rushed into the passageway, the others following closely behind. After walking for more than 10 meters, there was a password-protected door made of fine steel. Ordinary people would not be able to enter without a password. But the one standing in front of the door was the Golden Wolf King, Lei Fu, who was clawing at the door. The door, which was made of 10-centimeter thick steel and impervious to even artillery shells, was torn apart by Lo's hands as if it were made of paper, and the door immediately opened. However, this violent method of breaking the door also triggered the alarm of the underground base, and for a moment, the ear-piercing alarm sounded. Klinsmann and Mora were about to go to bed, but when they heard the alarm, they jumped out of bed and rushed to the control room of the command center. When they saw Lo rushing through the door, they were stunned at first, and then they ordered the gunmen in the base through the walkie-talkie, kill these intruders at all costs. Lo didn't care about this at all and rushed straight in. Not far from the door, a team of gunmen with AKs rushed at him. These gunmen had already received orders from their superiors, and they pulled the trigger without hesitation. Bullets whistled toward Lo like a train. Lo was not afraid at all. The golden fur on his body stood up. After transforming into the Golden Wolf King, his defense was amazing. As long as he didn't use some heavy weapons, these bullets couldn't hurt him at all. When the whistling bullets hit him, they all fell to the ground with a clatter, as if they had hit an iron wall, causing no damage at all. Lo let out a long howl, and with a tap of his toes, he was already among the gunmen. With a sweep of his arms, dozens of gunmen were all pierced through. Their stomachs were smashed and they fell into a pool of blood. In front of the big screen, Klinsmann was so scared that he sat down on the sofa and shouted, "What the hell is this monster? Why isn't it afraid of bullets?" Mora cried in horror, "Boss, they seem to be werewolves from the dark world of the West." Klinsmann cursed, "Damn it, we've never interfered with the dark world of the West. Why are they here?" Mora cried, "Boss, look. Those people behind them are the ones who attacked our Angel building some time ago." Klinsmann also saw the Spider-Man and Iron Man behind Lo. "Bastard, when did Qin Haodong collude with the dark world of the West?" Mora said in panic, "Boss, what should we do?" Klinsmann slowly calmed down, and a ferocious look flashed across his face. "Kill them, of course." After that, he once again ordered the walkie-talkie in front of him, "Hurry up and kill these intruders. Whoever can kill one of them will be rewarded with $100 million. When there was a big reward, there were always brave men. When they heard the reward of $100 million, the gunmen, who had been a little panicked, even forgot their fear of the werewolves. They picked up their weapons and rushed toward Lo and the others. Unfortunately, courage did not mean strength. They were just ordinary gunmen. How could they cause any harm to the golden-haired Wolf King? In just a few minutes, all the gunmen were lying in pools of blood. There were no survivors. Seeing that his men were defeated, Klinsmann pressed a red button hard. "Let these genetically modified people out. Mora said nervously, "Boss, is this okay? We can't completely control these genetically modified people. If they run out and are found by people outside, we will be in trouble." Klinsmann said frantically, "I can't care about that. We must kill these people in front of us. They were sent by Qin Haodong. I can't let them succeed." As the red button was pressed, a steel gate in the base slowly rose. Then, with a roar, dozens of strange-looking people rushed out. Or rather, they could not be called humans at all. Some had human heads and snake bodies, some had octopus tentacles all over their bodies, and some crawled forward like spiders, spitting out strange silk threads from their mouths from time to time. These people were the latest bio-humans created by Angel Pharmaceutical. In terms of strength, each of them was comparable to a human warrior at the supreme power realm. However, they had not found a way to control these monsters, so they had not been used. Now, in order to kill Lo and the others, Klinsmann could not care less. He directly released dozens of monsters. It was a pity that he had underestimated the ability of Lo and the others. Although each of these monsters had reached the supreme power realm, they were all top supreme power realm experts. None of the members of Daddy Security Company was lower than the 7th level of the supreme power realm. After the transformation, Lo had reached the strength of a saint expert. After these monsters rushed out, they were very fierce at first and pounced on them unscrupulously. As a result, they were soon killed by Lo and the others. The remaining few fled frantically, but in the end, they were killed by Ma Wenjue and the others. "Bastard, who the hell are these people?" Seeing that he had failed again, Klinsmann's eyes were bloodshot. He had seen werewolves before, but they were all low-level werewolves. He had never seen such a strong existence like Lo. Although the people behind him were not as eye-catching as Lo, they were all very strong, especially the Spider-Man. He could kill the monsters released by Klinsmann with one blow. Seeing that Lo and the others had already rushed to the center of the base, Klinsmann finally pressed another orange button after hesitating for a moment. As soon as the button was pressed, a group of guards rushed out. Each of them was wearing the warrior's knitted garment, which was as valuable as an aircraft carrier. It could raise their cultivation to the 9th level of the supreme power realm. These people were the last trump card of the underground base, and they were one-time consumables. Once used, the warrior's knitted garment would be fine, but the carefully trained soldiers would explode due to the backfire of power. But he could not care so much now. As long as he killed these intruders in front of him, there was still room for improvement. Otherwise, it would really be over. However, he soon found that these last trump cards, which he had high hopes for, did not achieve the effect he had expected. Although these guards could reach the speed and strength of the 9th level of the supreme power realm by wearing the warrior's knitted garment, they could not compare with real supreme power masters. They had no experience, corresponding cultivation methods, and moves. After the two sides fought, Lo roared, raised his hand, grabbed the warrior's knitted garment of a guard, and directly tore his heart. In front of the strength of a saint, these people had no ability to resist at all. Except for Lo, the guards were still no match for Ma Wenjue and the others. In just a few minutes, the guards that Klinsmann had spent a lot of money on were completely destroyed. Looking at these frightened people on the big screen, Mora said in a trembling voice, "Boss, let's run. It'll be too late if we don't leave now." Klinsmann looked depressed. At this point, he had no strength to resist at all. He could only press a green button again. The floor under his feet split open, revealing an underground passage that could only allow one person to pass through. The two of them went down the passage and ran out of the base. This escape passage had been left behind when the base was first built. However, Klinsmann thought that with the super strong defense of the underground base, no one could break in, so the possibility of using this passage was almost zero. But today, the underground base was completely destroyed, so he could only escape through this passage. The underground passage was very long, and the exit was directly outside the amusement park. 20 minutes later, in a bush, a small green cypress tree slowly moved to the side, revealing a dark hole of an exit. Soon, Mora's head appeared first, and then Klinsmann was pulled out from behind. After escaping, the two of them closed the exit again. Klinsmann breathed a sigh of relief. He looked back in the direction of the amusement park and felt a sharp pain in his heart. He cried with a sad face, "It's over, it's all over. The underground base that I've painstakingly built is over, and so is my angel pharmaceutical." Mora said, "Boss, don't be too sad. Where there's life, there's hope. As long as we're alive, we'll definitely make a comeback in the future." Klinsmann gnashed his teeth and said, "You're right. I escaped today, but I'll definitely tear him into pieces in the future." At this time, a sudden applause sounded in the night sky, followed by a clear voice. "He's right. He's very ambitious. It's a pity that you won't have this chance again." Chapter 827. Hearing the voice, Klinsmann and Mora looked back. They were so scared that they almost peed their pants. Qin Haodong was standing behind them and looking at them with a smile. Angel Pharmaceuticals' lair was so well hidden. Qin Haodong could guess that its owner must be cunning and would leave a very secret way out for himself. Therefore, he did not participate in the attack. Instead, he stood in the sky on his flying sword and kept scanning the ground under his feet with his spirit. He found Klinsmann and Mora as soon as they climbed out. Qin Haodong said, "There's no need to introduce myself. I think you know who I am and what I want. Tell me, who's your master? Where are the alien demons? If I'm satisfied with your answers, I'll consider sparing your lives. I'll tell you everything I know." As an assistant, Mora was the first to give in. Klinsmann roared angrily, "Mora, how dare you? Have you forgotten what will happen to you if you betray the organization? Shut up." Qin Haodong flicked his fingers and Klinsmann fell to the ground with a thud and fainted. "Okay, you can tell me now." Mora said, "Mr. Qin, what do you want to know?" Qin Haodong asked, "Why does Angel Pharmaceutical need to do so many experiments? Why do you need to develop so many viruses?" Mora said, "I don't know. The task assigned to us is to develop viruses that can kill on a large scale as soon as possible. The more lethal the virus, the better. It's best if there's no antidote. The zombie virus we developed last time was good, but it was cured by your traditional Chinese medicine. Later, we found a large number of Chinese medicine practitioners to conduct experiments. The purpose is to find a virus that can't be cured by traditional Chinese medicine, but it was destroyed by you halfway." Qin Haodong frowned. He didn't understand the purpose of the alien demons. Even if they could develop a more lethal virus, the final victims would only be ordinary people. It wouldn't cause much harm to the warriors, nor would it weaken their resistance to invade the Earth. He asked again, "Is the organizer behind Angel Pharmaceutical an alien demon?" Mora said, "I don't know who's behind the organization. I only know that they're very mysterious, but I don't know if they're the alien demons you mentioned. Who's in charge of contacting you? What characteristics does he have?" Mora said, "It was the butler who contacted us. He always wore a metal mask and used voice-changing equipment when he spoke. We didn't see his face at all, let alone know who he was." Qin Haodong asked, "What's the name of your organization?" "It's called a pilgrimage." As soon as Mora said that, his head suddenly exploded. Qin Haodong was slightly stunned. He had seen such a scene before. The alien demons must have planted some kind of restriction formation in their heads. As long as they mentioned the name of the alien demons or said something forbidden, the restriction formation would be triggered and their heads would explode. Although Mora was dead, there was still Klinsmann, who had a higher status. He flicked his fingers again and unsealed the acupoints. Then, he reached out to grab Klinsmann's pulse and transferred a stream of green with genuine qi to protect his heart and brain. Then he used the mind-manipulating technique to ask, "Tell me, what's the name of your organization?" There was a flash of confusion in Klinsmann's eyes as he said, "It's called the Pilgrimage Alliance." Qin Haodong breathed a sigh of relief. This guy's head didn't explode. It seemed that his method was indeed effective. Then, he asked, "Where is the headquarters of the Pilgrimage Alliance?" "In the Rising Sun City." As soon as Klinsmann said that, his head exploded with a bang. White brain juice mixed with blood splashed everywhere. Fortunately, Qin Haodong was protected by his genuine qi and was not splashed by these things. However, he immediately frowned. These restrictions were really amazing. He had already protected Klinsmann's brain, but it was only a little bit of relief. In the end, Klinsmann's head exploded and he died. But in any case, he had achieved a little success. At least he had narrowed the scope of his search. He knew that the other party's organization was called the Pilgrimage Alliance and it was located in the Rising Sun Empire. The Rising Sun Empire was a big country in Europe. It used to be very glorious, so it named itself the Rising Sun Empire. He didn't expect that the alien demons would choose to settle there. Qin Haodong took out the body-melting powder and melted the bodies of the two people. Then, his body flashed and he came to the amusement park. At this time, the base of Angel Pharmaceutical had been completely destroyed by Lei Fu and the others. All the laboratories and all kinds of information were gone. Zhang Tiniu and the others had prepared a lot of high-explosive explosives in advance. After the explosives were withdrawn, they directly blew up the entire underground base. Qin Haodong had no mercy for the researchers in the base. They were all mad scientists like Dr. Jin's. For their own research and money, they didn't care about the lives of others at all. Such people would be a scourge even if they were left alive. The previous movement was still within a controllable range, but the huge flames after the explosion immediately alarmed the police of N City, and the harsh sirens sounded from a distance. Since the matter had been settled, they didn't delay any longer and immediately retreated. Ma Wenjue hid with the members of Daddy Security Company, while Lei Fu and Chekhov followed Qin Haodong back to his apartment. Qin Haodong gave $300 million to Chekhov and entrusted him with the business of setting up the branch of Tangmen Traditional Chinese Medicine Company. Since the matter had been settled, there was no need for him to stay here any longer. He left a note for Shi Yumi, saying that he had to go to the empire where the sun never sets. Early the next morning, Qin Haodong took Lei Fu to the airport, ready to fly to the empire where the sun never sets. The reason why he took Lei Fu with him was that although Lei Fu was strong in fighting, he was not good at business management, and he couldn't help Chekhov if he stayed here. Moreover, Lei Fu was willing to follow Qin Haodong. Maybe his cultivation could be improved again with his master. The three of them entered the airport waiting hall. Qin Haodong walked in the front, and Lei Fu followed behind with a large suitcase. Because the tickets were booked late and the flight to the empire where the sun never sets was very crowded, they didn't buy first-class seats and could only wait in line for economy class. As soon as they stood in the line, 3 people suddenly came from the side. The airport waiting hall was crowded. The 3 people immediately caused a sensation after they walked past, for no other reason than that the woman was too beautiful and the man was too handsome. Walking in the front was a blonde beauty in a red dress. She was 1.8 meters tall, and her figure was no less than that of the models in the Fashion Week. Her long blonde hair fell over her shoulders, and her flawless face outlined a beautiful picture. Generally speaking, once a woman's figure was too tall, her figure would appear thin. However, this woman did not. She still maintained her curvaceous figure, especially her towering curves. Countless men who saw her secretly swallowed their saliva. The 2 men behind her were tall and straight. They were more than 1.9 meters tall, not inferior to the tall Lei Fu at all. Although they had arrogant expressions on their faces, their eyebrows were clear, and they were typical Western handsome men. This beautiful combination of one woman and two men immediately became the focus of the entire airport after they appeared. After seeing these three people, Lei Fu trembled with fear. He turned his head and was about to run away, but Qin Haodong grabbed him back. "What are you doing?" "The Red High Priest." Lei Fu said nervously, "Master, that woman is the most famous Red High Priest of God, Alex." Seeing his nervous expression, Qin Haodong laughed. "What's there to be afraid of? Didn't I tell you that as long as you don't transform yourself, no one will be able to tell?" Lei Fu was a werewolf wanted by the God's court. In the past, he would turn and run whenever he saw the Red High Priest. It had become a habit over the years. Only then did Lei Fu come to his senses. He was already wearing the jade pendant his master had given him, so he was no longer afraid of the God's court. Moreover, with his unfathomable master by his side, he was full of confidence. Even if he was discovered, with his master's cultivation and his strength as the Golden Wolf King, he wouldn't be afraid of a Red High Priest. At this thought, he couldn't help but puff out his chest, and his nervous expression disappeared. Qin Haodong asked, "Do you know these three people?" "Of course, we've even crossed paths. I once ran for 3 days and 3 nights because of him." Lei Fu said, "Master, this woman is called Alex. Although she's young, she's the most powerful Red High Priest of God's court. Moreover, this woman has a fiery temper and is easily irritable, so we'd better be careful." Qin Haodong nodded. "What about the other two?" Lei Fu said, "They're knights sent by the God's court to protect the Red High Priest. One is called Hikari, and the other is Hulk. They're just grand knights, about as strong as I was before. I can strangle them both with one hand now." When Lei Fu finished his introduction, Alex had already walked over with the two knights. Since it was his first time seeing someone from the God's court, Qin Haodong was very curious. His eyes were fixed on Alex. Of course, under his long-distance perception, what he saw was different from what others could see. These three people were all brimming with holy aura, with Alex's aura being the strongest. As a doctor, Qin Haodong habitually gave Alice a physical examination with his eyes. He was surprised to find that this woman's physique was extremely pure, with almost no impurities. If Ma Wenjue and the little fellow's physique belonged to the congenital meridian connection realm, then Alex's physique belonged to the congenital pure physique. No wonder she could become the most outstanding Red High Priest of God's court at such a young age. After the physical examination, his eyes fell on the deep ravine on Alice's chest, not to appreciate the beautiful scenery, but because of the crystal-clear six-pointed star pendant hanging there. This six-pointed star pendant contained extremely powerful energy. Unfortunately, this energy was the same as the holy power contained in Alex's body, so it was of no help to Qin Haodong. Otherwise, if he absorbed it, it would be comparable to an upper-level spirit stone. Alex didn't know what Qin Haodong was thinking. She suddenly became angry when she saw the Wuxia man's eyes fixed on her chest. She stared with her beautiful big eyes and shouted, "What are you looking at, you damn hooligan? I'll dig your eyes out if you look at me again." Qin Haodong smiled. This chick was really hot-tempered. "Miss, let me see what's there. I'm not peeping. Since you dare to show it, you should accept everyone's gazes." Hearing his words, the surrounding passengers immediately laughed. There was nothing wrong with what he said. Since it was already out of her clothes, she shouldn't mind other people's gazes. "You," Alex's cheeks flushed with anger. Hulk, who was standing behind her, immediately stepped forward, pointed at Qin Haodong's nose and shouted, "Boy, do you know who you're talking to?" Chapter 828. As a grand knight of the divine court, Hulk had always regarded Alex as the goddess in his heart. Since the Wuxia man in front of him dared to disrespect his goddess, he immediately stood up to show off and increase his weight in the eyes of the goddess. "Unreasonable fellow, do you know who you're talking to?" Before Qin Haodong could say anything, Lei Fu stood up first and confronted Hulk with tit for tat. He was now certain that with the jade pendant on him, Alex would not be able to detect his werewolf aura. For so many years, he could only turn tail and run whenever he saw the high priest of God's court. Today was the first time he stood up and argued with someone from God's court, and this made him inexplicably excited. Looks like I'll have to teach you a lesson, kid. Although Loaf looked stronger than him, in order to show off in front of the girls, Hulk swung his fist at Loaf's chest. He was a great knight of God's court, and although he did not use his divine power, his power was comparable to that of a grandmaster warrior. Naturally, he did not take Loaf seriously. But Loaf was originally a werewolf, and his body was naturally strong. Now that he had become a golden wolf king, he roared. He also swung his fist at Hulk with a roar. The two men's fists collided with each other, and the two big fists collided with a loud bang. In terms of strength, Loaf had an innate advantage. In terms of power, he was a golden wolf king, and only a holy knight of God's court could fight him. On the other hand, Hulk was only a grand knight, one level lower than a holy knight. Under such circumstances, he was pushed back more than 10 steps by this punch and fell on his back with a plop. Loaf had deliberately held back his strength, or the punch would have blown his arm off. This was the first time Loaf had openly dealt with a great knight of God's court, and this result made him so happy that he immediately laughed out loud. Hulk had lost face in front of the girls, and he jumped up to attack again, but Alex stopped him. "Alright, Hulk, we have important things to do. Don't delay the mission." Alice immediately stopped Hulk. She could already tell that Lo's cultivation was much higher than Hulk's. If he wanted to win, he would have to use the holy power of the divine court. However, this was the airport, so it was clearly not appropriate. Hulk also knew that he was no match for the big man in front of him. He glared angrily at Lo and did not continue to attack. Qin Haodong just smiled and didn't take it seriously. Then he found that Alex and the others were on the same plane as him and were standing in line behind him. Another Grand Knight, Hikari, said to Alex, "Miss, I really don't know how those people do things. You have such a distinguished status, but you only booked economy class. You didn't even get first class." Although Alice was a little hot-tempered, she was still a reasonable person. She said, "We can't blame others for this. We left in too much of a hurry. They can't possibly chase away the people in the first-class cabin for us." As they spoke, the ticketing began. The group of them passed through the security check and boarded the plane. Qin Haodong found his seat according to the ticket number and was surprised to find that Alex was sitting next to him. The two of them were magically sitting together under God's arrangement. He found it interesting and said with a smile, "Miss Alex, I didn't expect the two of us to be sitting together." Alex snorted coldly, "How do you know my name?" Qin Haodong said, "Not only my eyes are good, but my ears are also very sensitive. They all call you Alex. Did I hear wrong? Even if my name is Alex, it's not your name. Don't try to get close to me. I hate people like you." After saying that, Alex turned her head. She was sitting right next to the window, so she could enjoy the scenery outside. At this time, the plane took off and quickly flew into the blue sky. Qin Haodong also wanted to look out of the window, but he was embarrassed to find that when he turned his head, he could see the mountains and ravines on Alex's chest. He could even see her black lace underwear clearly. Fortunately, the scenery here seemed to be more beautiful than outside the window. Alex seemed to feel Qin Haodong's gaze. She stared at him and said, "Annoying guy, what are you looking at?" Qin Haodong said, "Of course I'm looking at the scenery." Alex said with a blush, "Nonsense, you're obviously peeking at me." "How is it peeking? I'm looking at you openly. I really don't understand you girls. Why do you have to wear some low-cut sexy clothes? If people take a few glances, they will say that you're peeking. You're a hooligan. If that's the case, why don't you wear some turtlenecks or a hood so that you don't have to worry about being peeked at?" Speaking of this, Qin Haodong sighed and shook his head. People are really not what they used to be. We men are more generous. No matter how you look, we won't say that you're a hooligan. Although it was a complaint, it was indeed a question in his heart. He didn't understand why so many women liked to wear low-cut clothes. Even if the weather was cold, they still wanted to expose their private parts to the air. But if you couldn't help but look at it a few more times, you would be labeled as a hooligan. She was allowed to be exposed openly, but you were not allowed to look at it openly. It was a very strange logic. Alex was so angry that her lungs were about to explode. As the most outstanding and youngest high priest of the divine palace, she was usually above tens of thousands of people. No one dared to talk to her like this. But the other party's words were so righteous that she couldn't find any reason to refute. At this moment, the broadcast in the plane sounded, "Dear passengers and friends, is there anyone here who is a doctor? A passenger in the first class has fallen down. If there is anyone here who is a doctor, please help him." Hearing this broadcast, before Qin Haodong could react, Alex immediately stood up. "Get up and let me out." Qin Haodong looked at her in surprise and said, "What are you going to do?" Alex said, "Didn't you hear that? Someone fell down and got hurt. I'm going to have a look. Get out of the way." Qin Haodong said, "Are you a doctor?" She was obviously a high priest of the divine palace. When did she become a doctor? Alex said angrily, "Cut the crap and get out of the way." "All right." Qin Haodong stood up and followed Alex to the first-class cabin. Alex took 2 steps, looked back at him and said, "Why are you following me?" Qin Haodong said with a playful face, "I'll go with you to keep an eye on him. If you hurt him, I can help you save him." "Bastard, you jinx." Alex ignored him and strode to the first-class cabin. In the first-class cabin, a middle-aged man in his 50s fell to the ground. There was a big wound 6 or 7 centimeters long on his head. It was so deep that the bone could be seen, and blood kept flowing out. Next to him was a middle-aged woman in her 40s. She was so anxious that she didn't know what to do. The other 2 stewardesses were bandaging the injured man. Unfortunately, the wound was so deep that the gauze couldn't stop the blood at all. As soon as it was blocked, the blood oozed out. "Let me do it." Hearing Alex's shout, the stewardess and the middle-aged woman thought she was a doctor and quickly stepped aside. She walked quickly to the injured man, drew a cross in front of her chest with her right hand, and whispered, "God bless, divine healing skill." Although her voice was so low that others couldn't hear what she said, Qin Haodong heard it clearly. After the divine healing skill was used, a holy light that ordinary people couldn't see fell from the sky and fell on the injured man. Then the wound began to heal quickly. This kind of change couldn't be seen by others, and even the appearance didn't change much, but Qin Haodong could clearly feel the changes inside the wound. The cells grew rapidly and the blood stopped flowing out. He couldn't help but sigh secretly. It seemed that the divine palace had its own unique things after standing in the West for so many years. This divine healing skill had an excellent effect on treating external injuries. After Alex's treatment, the wound finally stopped bleeding, and the stewardess bandaged it with gauze. The middle-aged woman stood next to her and saw all this clearly. Although she didn't know how Alex did it, she still said gratefully, "Thank you, young lady. Thank you so much." Alex glanced at Qin Haodong next to her, and a smug look appeared on her face. But before she could speak, the middle-aged man who had fallen to the ground suddenly turned pale, and his breathing became shorter and shorter. He was struggling more and more, and even had symptoms of convulsions. The middle-aged woman's expression changed greatly. She said to Alex, "Doctor, hurry up and see what's wrong with my man." Alex also panicked. She was the Red High Priest of the Divine Palace. She relied on the divine healing skill to cure people. She didn't know any medical knowledge. However, she had treated people in the past and had never encountered such a situation. She didn't know why this happened today. The stewardess next to her also said, "Yes, doctor, hurry up and save him, or he will die." Alex had no choice but to use the divine healing skill again, but she found that the patient's reaction was even stronger this time. He was exhaling more than he was inhaling. He was about to die. Seeing the man's critical condition, the middle-aged woman roared angrily, "What kind of doctor are you? Hurry up and treat my man." Even though Alex was the Red High Priest, she was at a loss in the face of this situation. I'm sorry, I'm not a doctor." Hearing this, the middle-aged woman suddenly became angry. "Why are you here if you're not a doctor? If my man dies, I'll take you to court and make you stay in prison for the rest of your life." Now Alex was completely panicked. Although she was the Red High Priest of the Divine Palace, the secular law didn't have much binding force on her. But if this matter was spread out, it would definitely cause great damage to the prestige of the Divine Palace. Seeing that Alex had no way to save her man, the middle-aged woman pounced on her and said, "You killed my man. I'll kill you today." Although Alex could easily kill the woman in front of her with a finger, she couldn't do so. The woman was just an ordinary person, and she did aggravate her man's condition. Seeing that the middle-aged woman's hand was about to grab Alex's flawless face, a big hand suddenly reached out from the side and grabbed the middle-aged woman's wrist with a bang. "Okay, stop it. I can cure your man." Hearing that Qin Haodong could save her man, the middle-aged woman immediately calmed down, but this time she was more cautious. She asked, "Are you a doctor?" "I'm a doctor," Qin Haodong said as he took out the needle bag. He moved like lightning, and in the blink of an eye, more than a dozen silver needles were pierced into the middle-aged man's chest. "What are you doing?" The middle-aged woman had never seen acupuncture before. Seeing that the young man was stabbing her man with needles, she was about to stop him, but found that the man's breathing became steady and his face became ruddy. Chapter 829. In contrast, the stewardess seemed to know more. She said, "Sir, are you a traditional Chinese medicine practitioner?" Qin Haodong said, "Yes, this is acupuncture of traditional Chinese medicine." Seeing that her man's condition was getting better, the middle-aged woman asked, "Sir, what's wrong with my husband?" Qin Haodong said, "Does your husband have a heart attack?" "He had a heart attack." The middle-aged woman said, "He does have a heart attack, but he hasn't had a relapse since the stent surgery 6 months ago." "Why did he suddenly have a heart attack?" Qin Haodong glanced at Alex next to him and said, "There are many reasons for heart disease. Maybe it's because of trauma." The middle-aged woman nodded. Seeing that her man's complexion was getting better and his breathing was stable, she didn't ask any more questions. 10 minutes later, Qin Haodong took the silver needles back. At this time, the middle-aged man had completely recovered. He opened his eyes and sat up from the ground. Qin Haodong felt his pulse again and wrote a prescription for the middle-aged woman. "Your husband's disease is basically under control. Go back and take the medicine for a week according to this prescription, and he won't have a relapse." The middle-aged woman said, "Thank you, doctor." The patient had been treated. Qin Haodong turned around and returned to the economy class. This time, it was Alex who followed him step by step. After returning to their seats, Alex seemed to have some questions to ask, but she tried several times and held them back. Qin Haodong had a good impression of this straightforward and fiery high priest. He said with a smile, "Ask me if you have any questions." A flash of embarrassment flashed across Alex's face. When she had just gone to treat the patient, Qin Haodong had said that if she made the patient sick, he would help to cure it. That had really happened. "I just want to ask, why did the man just have a heart attack?" Qin Haodong said, "When you just treated the patient, you used magic instead of medical skills, right?" Alex didn't hide it anymore and said, "In fact, I am a high priest of the divine court. I use divine healing skill to treat patients." But our divine healing skill is very powerful. I have used this skill to save more than a dozen people, and there has never been a mistake. I don't know what happened today. Can you tell me? Looking at his depressed face, Qin Haodong suddenly felt that this woman was very interesting. He suddenly felt that this woman was very interesting. Originally, he wanted to say it directly, but he suddenly changed his mind. Do you really want to know what the problem is? Of course, I want to know. Alice nodded her head vigorously, and even the mountains and valleys in her chest began to tremble. Qin Haodong said with a playful face, if you want to know, kiss me and I'll tell you right away. This woman had just called him a hooligan. If he didn't take advantage of her, he wouldn't be able to live up to that title. Due to her physique, Alice had become the red-robed high priestess of the divine court very early on. Wherever she went, she was revered by tens of thousands of people. When had she ever been teased like this? However, this hateful guy in front of her had an evil smile on his face, making her want to punch him. However, she really wanted to know what her problem was. You don't want to kiss me? Qin Haodong said, if you don't figure out the cause of the problem, I'm afraid you won't dare to use this magic to save people in the future. Otherwise, if someone really dies, it will not only bring you a lot of trouble, but also cause a great negative impact on the reputation of the divine court. Alice's heart skipped a beat. What Qin Haodong said directly hit the nail on the head, which was exactly what she was worried about. If she didn't figure out the problem, she would really have a psychological shadow in the future and dare not use the divine healing skill again. After hesitating for a while, she gritted her teeth and looked around. Seeing that no one was paying attention to her, she quickly kissed Qin Haodong on the cheek. Although her movements were very fast and no one noticed, Alice was still full of shyness. Her white cheeks were as red as if they were about to drip blood. Qin Haodong originally just wanted to tease her. As long as the woman apologized to him and said a few nice words, it would be fine. He didn't expect that she would be so inflexible and really kiss him. Alice said, "You scoundrel, I've done as you said. Hurry up and tell me." Looking at her expression, if he didn't tell her, she would fight to the death. Qin Haodong smiled and said, "Your divine healing skill is very powerful. That's the problem just now. You alleviated the injury on his head, but at the same time, you also caused his heart disease." Alice asked doubtfully, "How is that possible?" "I've treated a heart patient before, and the effect was very good. This has never happened." Qin Haodong said, "His situation is special because there is a stent in the blood vessels of his heart, and your divine healing skill can quickly heal the wound and remove the foreign body. But the divine healing skill is not a human being. It can't distinguish whether the stent is good or bad. It thought it was just a foreign body, so it mobilized the tissue around the blood vessels to wrap it. This caused the whole blood vessel to be blocked and blood could not flow. If I hadn't been there, he wouldn't have had the chance to be sent to the hospital for emergency treatment." "Ah! How could this happen?" Alexis opened her mouth wide in surprise. Qin Haodong said, "You are not a doctor. In the future, when you use divine healing skill to treat people, you must understand the situation clearly. Otherwise, it will be easy for accidents to happen." Biting her lips, Alice nodded and said in a low voice, "Thank you." Her gratitude came from the bottom of her heart. Qin Haodong had really helped her a lot. If the high priest of the divine court really killed someone, the impact on the divine court would be immeasurable. "There's no need. Didn't you already thank me?" Qin Haodong said mischievously. Thinking of the first time she took the initiative to kiss a man, Alice's cheeks turned red again. She said shyly and angrily, "Why can't you be serious at all?" Qin Haodong said, "Women should be gentle. It will be difficult for a woman like you to marry in the future." Alice said angrily, "It's none of your business. Forget it. I don't care. I'm a traditional Chinese medicine practitioner, not a matchmaker." Hearing Qin Haodong mention traditional Chinese medicine, Alice said curiously, "I'm really curious about how you did it just now. Can you cure people with needles?" Qin Haodong said, "It's called acupuncture. I don't just stab people with needles casually. The knowledge in it is broad and profound. Ordinary people can't understand it." After that, the two of them chatted, and the core topic was traditional Chinese medicine. Alice was like a curious baby, asking questions after questions. Seeing that they were approaching the empire where the sun never set, Alice said, "You can tell if a person is sick by touching his wrist. Traditional Chinese medicine is really amazing. Then you can touch me to see if I'm sick." Qin Haodong was speechless and said, "What do you mean by touching you?" "This is called pulse diagnosis. In our Wuxia, touching has a very broad meaning. Don't talk nonsense. Hurry up and see if I'm sick," Alice said as she handed her white wrist to Qin Haodong. Qin Haodong put his right hand on her pulse and further felt Alice's special constitution. After a while, he took his hand back. This woman was really special. There were no impurities in her body. It was impossible for her to get sick. Alice asked, "How is it? Am I sick?" "Your constitution is very good and very healthy, but there is one thing you need to pay attention to." Alice actually knew her constitution very well. The reason why she asked this question was to test Qin Haodong. Hearing that he wanted her to be careful, she asked curiously, "What do you mean? What do I need to pay attention to?" Qin Haodong said, "Your healing skill is really amazing, but don't use it when your aunt comes in the future, or she will be driven away. If you don't have your period for a long time, the lack of yin sunflower qi will not cause any harm to your body, but you will never be a mother in this life." "Ah. Will it still be like this?" Alice did notice this before. As long as she used the divine healing skill during her period would be completely cured, but she didn't realize that there was anything wrong with it. Of course, a woman should look like a woman. Alice grabbed Qin Haodong's collar and said, "What do you mean? Don't you think I look like a woman?" Qin Haodong looked down at her collar and said, "If I hadn't looked here, I really wouldn't have realized that you are a woman. Bastard, rogue." Alice covered her collar with one hand and punched Qin Haodong in the chest with the other. But in the eyes of others, her action looked like a flirting between a couple. At this time, Great Knight Hulk looked over and his expression suddenly became ugly. 10 minutes later, the plane landed at the airport of the Rising Sun City, the capital of the Rising Sun Empire. Before leaving, Alice said to Qin Haodong, "I don't know your name yet." "Qin Haodong, you are welcome to see me when you have time." After that, he walked down the plane with Lo. "You bastard, rogue, I won't get sick," Alice shouted at Qin Haodong's back. At this time, she looked like a girl who was acting coquettishly with a man. Hulk and Hikari were stunned. They had been with the goddess for so long, but they had never seen Alice look like this. Qin Haodong got off the plane, took a taxi, and went to a villa on the outskirts of the Rising Sun City. The Rising Sun City was a famous metropolis in the world, but there was a characteristic here. During the day, the population of the city exceeded 10 million, and at night, most people left the city and returned to live in the suburbs. This was a rental place they had booked in advance, and the daily rent was $100,000. However, the conditions here were really good. The environment was extremely quiet, and there were no buildings around. The 3-story European-style villa had a garden in front and a swimming pool in the back. It was also equipped with 2 Land Cruiser SUVs. $100,000 was really worth it. After the two confirmed their identities and entered the door, 3 maids in bikinis immediately greeted them. Although the 3 of them were not stunning beauties, they were still very beautiful. The most important thing was that they had a good figure. The standard S-shaped body, coupled with the bikini outfit, could easily arouse the desire of men. However, Qin Haodong and Hikari had a special identity and were not interested in these 3 women at all. There were a lot of private things that could not be seen, so he directly drove them out. Lo had traveled all over the country over the years and was very capable in all aspects. He was also very good at cooking. In the evening, he cooked a French meal for Qin Haodong. After dinner, the sun went down. Qin Haodong set up a small essence gathering formation in the courtyard of the villa and let Lo sit inside to cultivate. After the formation was activated, the moonlight shrouded Lo like a shining beam of light, and the rich qi quickly improved his werewolf blood. Qin Haodong walked around the courtyard and suddenly looked to the west with a dignified expression. Chapter 830. As a cultivator, he was keenly aware of the violent energy fluctuations coming from the west from time to time. There was the holy power of the divine court and the power of darkness. Although they were dozens of kilometers apart, he could still feel the enormous energy, which showed the high cultivation of the two parties. Just then, a shadow came from the west at a high speed. When it arrived above the villa, it quickly slid down and landed in the yard. Qin Haodong took a closer look and found that it was an injured bat on the ground. This bat was different from the other bats. Its wings were bright gold, and there was a wound on its back that was oozing blood. The movement here also alerted Lei Fu, who was cultivating. When he saw the bat, he cried out in surprise, "Is that a vampire prince?" The vampire prince was equal to the wolf king of the wolf clan, second only to the vampire queen. Qin Haodong asked, "How did you know?" Lei Fu said, "I can tell from the color of its wings. Golden wings are the symbol of a prince. The darker the color, the higher the level. If its whole body turns golden, it will reach the level of the vampire queen." Qin Haodong nodded. Since it was a vampire prince, the other party's cultivation must be higher to be able to injure him so badly. Lei Fu looked at the wound on the bat's back and said, "Vampires are very strong, second only to our wolf clan. Ordinary sword wounds can heal quickly. He must have been injured by someone from the divine court. There is holy power in the wound, so it can't heal." Qin Haodong held the injured bat in his palm. As blood flowed out, it seemed to be dying. Except for the occasional breath, it was no different from a dead bat, which showed how serious the injury was. Lei Fu said, "The most important source of power for vampires is their blood. This vampire prince has lost so much blood, his strength must have been damaged." Qin Haodong said, "If we help him heal his wound, can we save him?" Lei Fu said, "Master, do you want to save him?" Before the unification of the Western Dark World, vampires and wolves had always been enemies, so he didn't like the vampire prince very much. Qin Haodong said, "There is an old saying in Wuxia that saving a life is better than building a 7-story pagoda. Although it's just a bat, it's still a living creature. I'm a doctor. It's fate that we met. Let's save its life." Lei Fu said, "It's seriously injured now. There are only two ways to save an injured vampire. The first is blood full of spiritual power, and the second is the power of Yin." Qin Haodong nodded. "I see." Although his blood was full of spiritual power, he would not waste his blood on an unknown blood clan member. Qin Haodong first used green with genuine qi to expel the holy power from the bat's wound, and then he took out the gold sore medicine and applied it to the wound. The regenerative ability of the blood-breed's body was indeed very strong. Without the obstruction of the holy power, coupled with the medicinal effect of the golden sore medicine, it only took a few minutes for the wound to heal completely. Qin Haodong put the vampire prince on the ground, took out a few medium-level spirit stones, and carved a strengthened version of the Yin gathering formation next to it. The moment the formation was activated, a pure power of Yin shot down from the full moon in the sky, drowning the golden-winged bat in an instant. The moment the formation was activated, a pure power of Yin shot down from the full moon in the sky, drowning the golden-winged bat in an instant. At the same time, the bat quickly came to life. Its wings trembled, and it quickly absorbed the power of Yin like a bottomless pit. About 10 minutes later, the middle-level spirit stones that Qin Haodong used to set up the formation cracked and turned into a mass of powder. He felt that the vampire prince in the formation had almost recovered and had the strength of an early-stage saint, so he raised his hand to stop the formation. Without the power of Yin, the golden-winged bat hissed and its wings trembled. In an instant, it turned into a blonde beauty. After the transformation, the vampire prince's clothes were extremely revealing. Her upper body was only covered in a tube top that could not be any smaller. She wore a pair of black leather shorts and a pair of blood-red high heels. This outfit made her look extremely enchanting. Qin Haodong was slightly stunned. He didn't expect it to be a female bat. Lo exclaimed, "Are you the vampire prince Corkina?" Qin Haodong said, "Why? Is she famous?" Lo said, "She's strong among the vampire princes. She's definitely in the top 3. Yes, that's me." Corkina smiled enchantingly. "I didn't expect you to know me so well. Do you admire me? Do you want to have sex with me?" Lo snorted. "I'm not interested in being your descendant." "That's a pity." Corkina licked her bright red lips and looked at Qin Haodong with great interest. "Wuxia man, how did you do that? How can you gather the power of the moon quickly?" As she spoke, her eyes were full of greed. If she could master this method of absorbing the moon quickly, she would become the strongest vampire in the future. It was even possible that she would become the next vampire queen. Qin Haodong said, "This is my secret method. There's no need to tell you. Even if I did, you wouldn't be able to learn it." Corkina said, "Little guy, as long as you tell me this method, I can consider making you my descendant. You'll become an eternal and glorious vampire." Qin Haodong said, "I'm sorry, I prefer to be a human being. I'm not interested in becoming a bat." Corkina's face changed. Her sexy face became extremely ferocious, and 2 fangs came out of her mouth. "Wuxia man, do you think I'm negotiating with you? Hand over the method now, or I'll suck your blood dry now." Lo said angrily, "Corkina, what are you doing? Have you forgotten who just saved you? Are you going to bite the hand that feeds you?" "Ha! Ha! Ha! Ha!" Corkina laughed wildly. "In the eyes of us noble vampires, you humans are just food, just like how you treat cattle and sheep. Will you be grateful to cattle and sheep? Now in my eyes, the only use you have is that special method. As long as you hand it over, I'll let you live and give you a lot of money. If you don't come to your senses, I'll turn you into 2 dried corpses right away." Lo said angrily, "How dare you? How dare you be so rude to a noble vampire prince? Go to hell." After saying that, Corkina stretched out her sharp claws to grab Lo's throat. Lo roared and punched at Corkina's palm. However, he didn't have time to transform, so he didn't have the strength of a golden fur wolf king. He was weaker than Corkina, so he was sent flying more than 10 meters after the collision. Corkina didn't care about Lo anymore. Instead, she grinned at Qin Haodong and said, "Wuxia man, accept my noble embrace." After saying that, she flew into the air. Her eyes flashed with a bloody light, and her 2 front claws grabbed at Qin Haodong's neck. Qin Haodong still had a faint smile on his face. He pointed at her and said, "Come down." With this shout, Corkina suddenly fell from the air and fell to the ground with a thud, as if she had been paralyzed. If it wasn't for her strong physical body, she would have lost half her life from the fall. Corkina was shocked. She desperately tried to mobilize her strength, but found that she had less than 1,000th of her usual strength. She looked at Qin Haodong in horror. "Despicable Wuxia man, what have you done to me?" Qin Haodong said with a smile, "There's an old saying in Wuxia, don't have the heart to harm others, but don't have the heart to guard against others. I knew that you wing things were not reliable, so I added something to the medicine when I stopped the bleeding. It's called the blood coagulation pill. It's a good medicine for us humans, and it can help stop the bleeding quickly. But it's a kind of poison for you vampires. It can stop your blood flow, so you can't use your strength at all. If you can be obedient and repay me, the medicine will automatically lose its effect after 2 hours. But you don't know what's good for you. Not only did you not repay me, but you also attacked me. How should I punish you? At this time, Lei Fu ran back and said angrily, Master, can't you let this heartless thing live? Let me kill her. Corkina was so scared that her face turned pale. She tried again and was sure that she couldn't use her strength. She quickly begged for mercy, I was wrong this time. Please let me go. I won't take revenge on you in the future. On the contrary, I'll repay you. Feeling Lei Fu's monstrous killing intent, she was really scared. The longer one lived, the more afraid one was of death. She had lived for thousands of years, and she was even more afraid when facing death. Qin Haodong raised his hand to stop Lei Fu and said to Corkina, I'll give you 2 choices. Either you give me your primordial blood and become my servant, or you die. Corkina immediately cried, No, absolutely not. I'm a noble vampire prince. How can I be a servant of you humans? It seems that you still don't understand your situation. Qin Haodong shook his head. That means if you choose the second choice, then you can die. With that, he waved a hand at Leviticus. Lev had no intention of going easy on the blood Kina. He kicked Corkina in the back, pressing her body into the ground. This kick almost took Corkina's life. She quickly cried, Master. Master, I choose to surrender. Don't kill me. Then she opened her mouth and spat out a drop of primordial blood that looked like a pearl into the air. Qin Haodong drew a golden talisman and directly absorbed the blood. The master-servant contract was established. From now on, this vampire prince was his servant. After doing all this, he flicked a red pill in front of Corkina. Eat this. It can remove the blood coagulation pill in your body. Corkina grabbed the pill and swallowed it. In just a few seconds, she regained the strength of a vampire prince. But things had changed. Now that Qin Haodong had become her master, he could kill her with a flick of his finger, so she didn't dare to be presumptuous anymore. Follow me, and you'll be rewarded in the future. Yes, master. Corkina said respectfully. Qin Haodong asked, You came from the west. What happened there? Corkina said, Master, the Covenant of Darkness is fighting with the Court of Gods. I was wounded by Anthony, the High Priest of the Court of Gods, and that's why I escaped here. Qin Haodong asked in surprise, Why? Isn't the Covenant of Darkness weaker than the Court of Gods? Why did they suddenly start a war? Chapter 831. The specific situation is like this, Master, Corkina began to tell. It turned out that 30 kilometers away from here was the manor of Duke André of the Unsetting Sun Empire. Duke André was a duke personally conferred by the Empress of the Unsetting Sun Empire. He had a prominent status and a lot of wealth. Originally, he had nothing to do with the Divine Court and the Western Dark World. But yesterday, his youngest daughter suddenly awakened the constitution of the Holy Maiden of the Divine Court and would become the next Holy Maiden of the Divine Court, which immediately caused an uproar in the Divine Court and the Dark World. Ever since the Divine Emperor obtained the gods' favor, the Western Dark World had been suppressed by the Divine Court to the point where they couldn't even lift their heads. If there was another Saintess, the consequences of the Dark World would be even more unimaginable. They might even face the danger of being annihilated. In order to deal with this situation, the Dark Speaker issued a kill order, asking the Dark World to kill the Holy Maiden before she awakened at all costs. She came to the Unsetting Sun Empire after receiving the order. Qin Haodong didn't expect this to happen. He asked, How many forces has the Dark Council sent? Corkina said, So far, there are 3 Wolf Kings, 3 Vampire Princes, and 1 Great Wizard. But this is just the beginning. Other members of the dark race are coming here after receiving the order. This time, the dark speaker made a great decision. She officially promised all the members of the dark world that whoever killed the holy maiden would become the deputy speaker of the dark world. There will always be brave men with great rewards. Because of this promise, the members of the underground world launched a crazy attack on Duke Andre's mansion. Qin Haodong said, "What about the divine court? They must have taken measures, right? They can't just watch you kill the holy maiden." Korkina said, "The divine court has been prepared for a long time. They have a total of 5 high priests, 3 paladins, and other members. They have an absolute advantage." Qin Haodong suddenly thought of Alex on the plane. She told the 2 paladins that she was going to the unsetting sun city to carry out a mission. It must be to protect the holy maiden. He said, "In this case, shouldn't the divine emperor come in person?" Korkina said, "At least the divine emperor hasn't come yet. The reason can also be guessed. If they come out in full force, it will be too late for him to go back if the dark speaker attacks his lair, the sacred city. In addition, the strong who have reached the level of the speaker and the Shenhuang can sense each other. Once he comes to the rising sun city, the speaker will definitely follow him. At that time, we can only increase the scale of the war." Qin Haodong nodded and asked, "How's the situation over there? Did the dark world suffer a loss?" Korkina said, "That is true. Because we don't have enough people, we are at a disadvantage. If I hadn't met Master, I would have been a marquise if I didn't die." Korkina nodded in agreement. "There's one thing I don't understand. Why didn't the divine court bring the saintess to the sacred city? Wouldn't that save us the trouble of being besieged?" Korkina said, "I'm not too sure about that, but I heard that it takes 3 days for the holy maiden to awaken, and she can't move during these 3 days. This news came from the divine court, and we don't know how true it is. In short, the holy maiden is still in Grand Duke Andre's mansion." Just as he finished speaking, he suddenly frowned. He looked to the west and said, "Oh no, I can feel the aura of the great priest in red. It must be that old faker, Anthony, chasing after us." "What, Anthony is here?" Hearing this name, Lev's eyes flashed with murderous intent. This was the man who had killed his wife and infant son. As members of the dark world, they were very sensitive to holy auras. Korkina said with certainty, "Yes, it's him. He's chasing after us." Qin Haodong also looked to the west and saw a white light spot flying toward them quickly. Unlike the sage-level warriors of Wuxia, this man was flying with holy power, not the qi of heaven and earth of the warriors of Wuxia. In the blink of an eye, the man landed in the courtyard of the villa. He was a white man in his 50s. He was skinny and wore a red robe. He was Anthony, the red-robed high priest of the divine court. "Korkina, let's see where you can run to." Anthony suddenly froze. Korkina had been injured by him, and he knew very well how badly she had been injured. Even if she hadn't died, she should have been half dead. Why did she look even more lively than before? "Anthony, old faker, do you still remember me?" Lev could no longer control his emotions. He put away the jade pendant Qin Haodong had given him, then howled at the sky and transformed into the golden fur wolf king. Both Korkina and Anthony were startled. They hadn't expected a wolf king to be hiding in the yard. "You're Lev." Anthony recognized Lev, but he was also shocked. He had been involved in the hunt for Lev for many years. This fish that had escaped the net had grown too quickly. He had gone from a beginner werewolf to a golden fur wolf king in one go. But this also made him more determined to get rid of Leviticus. If he was allowed to grow, there was no telling what he would become in the future. If he were to surpass Anthony, he would definitely be a thorn in his side. "It's me, Anthony. Today, I'm going to avenge my wife and son." After recognizing Lev, Anthony was not in a hurry to attack. Instead, he looked at the young man in the middle. "Wuxia man, as a human, how dare you associate yourself with vampires and werewolves? It seems that I'm going to eliminate you on behalf of the gods today. Qin Haodong said, Anthony, you came to my house and said that you were going to kill me without any reason. Lev didn't do anything bad back then. He even said that he didn't want to admit that he was a werewolf, but you still killed his wife and son. Does the Lord God know that you're so cruel and murderous? Anthony said with a ferocious look, what do you know? These dark creatures will become our enemies sooner or later. Although he didn't do anything bad back then, it doesn't mean that he won't do it in the future. And that little bastard will become a werewolf sooner or later. Is this what you call cutting weeds by the roots to avoid future troubles? Qin Haodong shook his head. If you want to blame someone, you can always find a pretext. The reason you're so tyrannical is because you have absolute power. With power, you don't care about the lives of others. There were still differences between people. As a red high priestess, Alice was much kinder than this fellow. A fierce light flashed in Anthony's eyes. Cut the crap. Today, the three of you must die. He was one of the most powerful high priests in the divine court. Although there was a vampire and a wolf king, he didn't care about them. Anthony, give me your life. At this moment, Lo could no longer restrain himself. With a long howl, he pounced at Anthony, his two shining wolf claws grabbing at Anthony's neck. Anthony was prepared. He drew a cross in front of his chest and pointed at Lo. A beam of pure white holy light shot towards Lo like an arrow. Lev punched at the white light, and the white light collided with his fist. There was a flash of white light, and Lei Fu was sent flying backward. His golden fur wolf king's body was so tough that not even machine guns could break through his defense, but when he came into contact with the white light, a plume of black smoke appeared and the surface of his fist was scorched black. At this time, Corkina attacked Anthony from behind. She shot at his neck as fast as lightning. Anthony snorted coldly and shot out a beam of holy light. Corkina had been hurt by holy light before and didn't dare to take it head-on. She quickly dodged, and at the same time, neutralized his attack. Just like that, a golden-furred wolf king, a vampire prince, and a red-robed high priest of the god court battled. Anthony was indeed strong. Although he was fighting 1 against 2, he didn't seem to be at a disadvantage. The crisscrossing holy light completely suppressed the two. This was the power of elemental suppression. The strongest defense of dark creatures couldn't withstand a single blow from the holy light. And because of the existence of the holy light, it was extremely difficult to recover from an injury. Qin Haodong put his hands behind his back and watched quietly. Anthony's strength was only equivalent to an ordinary early-stage saint, not much different from Corkina and Leviticus. But because of his elemental suppression, he had a big advantage. If his opponents had been 2 human saint-level warriors, he would have been cut down by their swords long ago. He also noticed that Anthony also had a 6-pointed star crystal hanging on his chest, just like Alex's. Every time he manipulated the holy power, it was through this 6-pointed star crystal. The holy power between heaven and earth first entered the 6-pointed star, and then entered his body to be controlled. It could be said that the 6-pointed star was the cornerstone of his power. As time went on, Anthony's advantage grew. Wounds of varying depths appeared on Lev and Corkina's bodies again. Lev's eyes were filled with hatred. He would kill Anthony even if he had to risk his life. Corkina, on the other hand, was bound by the master-servant contract. Qin Haodong was still here, so she couldn't escape. Otherwise, she would have disappeared long ago. After all, the speed of the Blood clan was her advantage when it came to escaping. Qin Haodong walked in the yard and waved his palms, scattering formation flags one by one. No matter what, Lev and Corkina had a special relationship with him. He couldn't just watch them be defeated. If he attacked directly, the 3 of them could easily kill Anthony. But he didn't want to do that. Only by letting Lev take revenge himself could he completely erase the hatred in his heart. At this time, Anthony became more and more courageous. His eyes flashed with excitement. In front of him was a vampire prince and a golden fur wolf king. If he could kill these two, his status in the divine court would greatly increase. He might even become the most powerful person under the divine emperor. He manipulated the holy power, and a sword of light pierced through Lev's chest. Then another sword of light cut Korkina's right arm. This time, both of them were seriously injured. They lay on the ground, panting desperately, trying to recover their strength. Anthony laughed proudly and said to Qin Haodong arrogantly, "Kid, don't think that these two can protect you. You're in cahoots with the dark creatures. Today, I will destroy you on behalf of the Divine Lord." Qin Haodong threw the last matrix flag and said calmly, "Anthony, you've killed innocent people all these years. You'd better go to the Divine Lord and atone for your sins. Kid, you don't have the right to tell me what to do. Today, I'll show you the true power of the Red Priest. You three can die together." Anthony then drew a cross on his chest again and said, "The Divine Lord controls everything. If the Divine Lord says time stands still, time will stand still." Great prophecy. When he finished chanting the incantation, holy power suddenly burst out from the hexagram, enveloping everyone present. At that moment, Lev and Korkina were shocked to find that they had lost the ability to move. Chapter 832. What do you think? The great prophecy spell tastes good, doesn't it? What else can you do but wait for your deaths? Anthony laughed proudly again. As the caster, of course he was not affected by the spell. Qin Haodong also felt a subtle power locking down the space around him. But this power was still a little weak, and he could break it with his true power. Although it weakened his movement and made him slower than before, it could not completely stop him from moving. He tried to take 2 steps forward, and it was true. His movement speed was much slower than before, and it seemed to be caused by the great prophecy spell. This spell had its own uniqueness. If it had been cast by someone stronger, such as the Emperor, he would probably be like Lo and Korkina, unable to move at all. Anthony was still laughing when he suddenly saw Qin Haodong take a few steps. His eyes widened in shock. How can you move?" The great prophecy spell was unique to the Holy Court, and it had always been successful. He had never seen anyone who could not be controlled by this spell. Qin Haodong smiled. "The great prophecy spell is indeed a good thing, but it's a pity that your ability is too weak. Now I'll show you what I can do." With that, he made a hand seal, and the shadow-gathering formation that he had just set up was instantly activated. This was a formation he had set up with formation flags. Compared to the simple shadow-gathering formation before, it was more than 10 times more powerful. In an instant, the dense power of the moon filled up the space within the formation. The Holy Court and the Dark Race were incompatible because they used the light saint power, while the Dark Race absorbed the power of the moon. Although the two were mutually exclusive, it also had to do with absolute quantity. For example, water could indeed subdue fire, but if there was too little water, and the fire was too strong, it would not be of any use. This was the current situation. Although Anthony was able to gather saint energy, the shadow chi at this moment was simply too dense. It was practically solid. Nourished by the power of the moon, Lei Fu and Korkina's injuries quickly healed. The two of them seemed to be recharged, and they were instantly revived. The saint power that Anthony could control quickly dissipated, and the great prophecy spell was dispelled. Anthony turned pale with fright. He had never seen anyone who could control this kind of magic. His first reaction was to run. However, in the past, his method of escape was to control the saint energy. Now that the entire space was filled with the lunar essence chi, there was no saint energy left for him to control. This time, he was in deep trouble. Even if he couldn't win, he couldn't escape. There was still a golden fur wolf king and a vampire prince on the other side, whose eyes were filled with hatred. Anthony immediately panicked. He had been the red-robed high priest for so many years, but he had never been in such a dangerous situation. Roar! Lo let out a furious roar and pounced at Anthony. Anthony drew across once again in an attempt to stop Lei Fu with Radiant Saint Force. Unfortunately, the Radiant Saint Force he used this time was not even a 10,000th of what he used before. It was dissolved by the lunar chi as soon as it shot out, unable to block Lei Fu at all. At the same time, Corkina pounced on him from behind, grabbing his neck. Her fangs sank into his carotid artery, sucking his blood without restraint. Anthony was just about to scream when Lei Fu's Wolf King's claws arrived. The red-robed high priests were powerful in their use of holy energy. Their bodies were no different from those of ordinary people, so Anthony was instantly torn to pieces by Lei Fu's hateful claws. Qin Haodong turned his head away. This scene was really uncomfortable to look at. Corkina said unhappily, "Why are you in such a hurry? Wouldn't it be better for me to suck him dry first and then kill him?" Lei Fu ignored her and continued to vent the hatred in his heart. After a few seconds, Anthony was no longer in sight. His whole body had been turned into minced meat on the ground. After his revenge, he slowly deactivated his frenzy. His face was covered in tears as he cried, "Wife, son, I finally avenged you today." The hatred that had been suppressed in his heart for so many years was completely released at this moment. Qin Haodong said, "All right, get up quickly and clean this up for me. It's disgusting to look at." He then threw a small bottle of corpse-dissolving powder to Lei Fu. Lei Fu took the powder and melted Anthony's body, then washed it with water. "Master, what should we do with this?" Lei Fu pointed to the only thing left of Anthony on the ground, the shining hexagram. After Anthony's death, its brilliance had dimmed a lot, and it looked like an ordinary piece of jade. Qin Haodong had seen Alice's hexagram pendant on the plane, so he was very interested in it. He said, "Bring it over and let me have a look." Lei Fu said, "Master, we dark creatures don't dare to touch this thing. We can't even stand the aura, let alone bring it over." Corkina said, "Yes, Master. This is a holy object of the divine court. It's called the Holy Hexagram. It contains extremely strong holy energy. We don't dare to touch it at all." "Oh." Qin Haodong took a few steps forward and waved his hand. The hexagram flew into his palm. When it was in his hand, he did feel the strong holy energy, but this power was neither harmful nor beneficial to him. Lei Fu said, "Master, you'd better throw it away quickly. Otherwise, the divine court will attack us crazily if they know that a red-robed high priest has died and the holy hexagram is in our hands. At that time, the battlefield will not be Grand Duke Andre's mansion, but here." Corkina also said nervously, "The holy hexagram is a holy object of the divine court. Once someone dies, they will immediately find out and find the location of the hexagram. The dark world has killed red-robed high priests before, but we can't deal with this hexagram. We can't destroy it or hide it, so we can only throw it away. As long as the divine court finds it, they will soon find a suitable successor and create another red-robed high priest. This is why the divine court has been prosperous for so many years." Hearing their words, Qin Haodong's heart skipped a beat. If he could let his people get the recognition of the holy hexagram, wouldn't he be able to create a saint-level master out of thin air? Moreover, the holy energy had an excellent restraining effect on dark creatures. Perhaps it would play a greater role in the battle against the alien demons. Thinking of this, he asked, "Do you know how the holy hexagram finds an inheritor?" Corkina said, "Although we haven't seen it with our own eyes, we've heard that the holy hexagram has the ability to recognize its master. No matter who it recognizes, they will become the red-robed high priest of the divine court. Legend has it that the strength of a high priestess is completely dependent on how much of the holy hexagram's recognition one's physique is. The reason why Alex is the strongest high priestess is because she has the highest recognition from the holy hexagram. Qin Haodong asked, does the inheritance of the red-robed high priest have anything to do with race? For example, can a Wuxia person become a priest of the divine court? Lei Fu said, we don't know about that. Anyway, we've never seen a Wuxia person become a red-robed high priest of the divine court. Corkina said eagerly, Master, let's not talk so much. Let's get rid of this thing as soon as possible. I guess the people of the divine court will be here soon. They will be able to sense the holy hexagram. Don't worry, I'll take care of this thing. Qin Haodong thought of something and directly put the hexagram into the storage ring. The storage ring was connected to another independent space. He didn't believe that the people of the divine court could still sense its existence. After putting away the holy hexagram, he said, Lei Fu, quickly put on the jade pendant. Corkina, leave first. You're a famous prince of the vampires. When the people of the divine court come, you won't be able to hide. Yes, master. Corkina answered and instantly turned into a golden-winged bat. She spread her wings and flew away, soon disappearing into the night. At the Grand Duke Andre's mansion, the battle was coming to an end. The Covenant of Darkness had underestimated the strength of the divine court due to the lack of manpower and had been defeated. There were only a few people of the divine court at the scene who were chasing the scattered vampires and werewolves. Alex was the most powerful of the red-robed high priests, and she was also the leader of the other high priests present. She was originally commanding her subordinates to fight. Suddenly, the hexagram on her chest shook, and then a sad emotion appeared in her mind. Alice was alarmed and cried out in her heart. This was a sign that the red-robed high priest had fallen. Logically speaking, they had the absolute advantage in the battle today and had even achieved an overwhelming victory. There shouldn't have been many casualties. Moreover, it was a red-robed high priest with an extremely high level of cultivation. She hurriedly ordered all the members of the divine court to return to the Grand Duke's mansion. Although the others didn't understand what had happened, they still retreated according to the order. Alex's sharp eyes scanned the crowd. The divine court had sent out a total of 5 red-robed high priests and 3 paladins to protect the saintess. After looking around, the 3 paladins were all there, but only 4 of the 5 red-robed high priests were left. Anthony was nowhere to be seen. Her heart skipped a beat. Could it be that Anthony had really fallen? She asked, has anyone seen the high priest Anthony? Paladin Yankovic said, I was fighting with him just now. He killed a vampire prince and then chased after it. At this point, Alex could already confirm that the one who had fallen was Anthony. She said with a gloomy expression, my holy hexagram just sensed that Anthony has fallen. Another red-robed high priest, Balderrama, said, I also sensed it just now. He died in the west. Yankovic said in shock, how could this be? We have the absolute advantage. How could there be such a large number of casualties? Balderrama said with a stern expression, we still don't know the exact situation. Let's hurry over and see who dared to attack the people of the divine court. We must make sure they are doomed eternally. The other red-robed high priests responded and were about to rush west together. Alex hurriedly said, wait, don't be rash. Balderrama said, Alex, what's there to hesitate about? The one who has fallen is our red-robed high priest. We must hurry over and avenge Anthony. At the very least, we must retrieve the holy hexagram. Otherwise, how can we explain it to His Majesty? Alex said, the most important thing for us now is to protect the saintess. What if this is a trap set by the other party? If it's a trick of luring the tiger away from the mountain and all our people leave, the people of the dark world will come back. By then, the saintess will be in danger. Chapter 833. Hearing this, the others' expressions changed. Their main purpose in coming to the empire of the unsetting sun this time was to protect the Holy Virgin. This task was more important than anything else. As old opponents who had fought for many years, they knew very well that the dark world had not shown their full strength. If this was really a trap made by them, they had to be cautious. Another holy knight, Bird Camp, said, "Alex, what should we do?" Alex said, "Well, Yankovic, Balderrama, and I will take some people there. You stay in the Duke's mansion and wait. If the Covenant of Darkness attacks, you will immediately send a distress signal, and we will come back immediately." Everyone nodded and thought that this was a good plan. So Alex, 2 red priests, and Yankovic, a holy knight, led more than a dozen people from the holy court to the west. When they were halfway there, Alex's expression changed drastically. "What's going on? Why can't I sense the aura of Anthony's holy hexagram?" This was definitely abnormal, because the holy hexagram was a sacred artifact of the holy court, and they could sense each other. It was this sense that allowed them to find the lost holy hexagram for so many years. It was no exaggeration to say that as long as the holy hexagram was still on earth, the holy court could find it and create a new red priest. But now, something strange happened. The holy hexagram that he had clearly sensed just a moment ago suddenly disappeared. Balderrama also frowned and said, "It's true. I also lost my sense of it." Yankovic said, "Don't worry about that. Let's go to the place where the holy hexagram disappeared." Everyone immediately quickened their pace and soon arrived at Qin Haodong's rented villa. Hulk and Hikari had been following Alex, and they had heard clearly about Anthony's disappearance. Therefore, when they arrived at the villa, they kicked the gate outside and sent it flying. Qin Haodong and Lev were sitting in the courtyard drinking tea. When these people came in, Lev jumped up and said, "What are you doing? Don't you know that this is private territory and it's illegal to invade?" Balderrama shouted, "Cut the crap. Hurry up and hand over Anthony and the holy hexagram. Otherwise, none of you will live." In his opinion, since Anthony and the holy hexagram had both disappeared in this location, it naturally had something to do with the owner of this place. At this time, Qin Haodong stood up and said to the crowd, "What Anthony? What holy hexagram? I don't know what you're talking about." "It's you." Alice didn't expect to meet Qin Haodong here. She was extremely surprised. Qin Haodong said with a smile, "Miss Alex, it's me. What are you and your friends doing here late at night?" "We're here to look for someone." Alex's tone was much gentler than Balderrama's. At least, she was not as overbearing. "It's like this. I have a friend who suddenly disappeared. He's a middle-aged man in red clothes. He's very recognizable, and he's wearing a 6-pointed star pendant around his neck. Did you see it?" Of course, Qin Haodong would not admit that Anthony had died here. He shook his head and said, "My friend and I have been sitting here drinking tea. I have not seen anyone else come here, nor have I seen the hexagram pendant." Seeing all of this, Lev was secretly amazed. He did not know how his master had managed to do it, for the other party to not be able to sense the divine hexagram even though he was standing right there. This, Alice didn't know what to do for a moment. Deep down, she had a good impression of Qin Haodong and was willing to believe this Wuxia man. However, Anthony had indeed disappeared from here. Balderrama pointed at Qin Haodong's nose and shouted, "Boy, don't play dumb with us. Anthony disappeared from here. How could you not know? I'm guessing that you're the one who killed Anthony." Yankovic then said, "I don't care who you are, but the one who lost is the Red Priest of the Divine Court. You can't afford to offend him. Hurry up and hand over the man and the holy hexagram, and we can deal with you leniently." Qin Haodong frowned and said, "Is the Red Priest very powerful?" Balderrama said, "Of course. I advise you not to play dumb." Qin Haodong said, "That's not right. I'm just an ordinary doctor. Since the Red Priest you mentioned is so powerful, why do you suspect me of killing him? Do you think I have that ability?" Alice said, "I met Dr. Qin on the plane. He is indeed an excellent Chinese medicine practitioner. Did we make a mistake? Balderrama said firmly, High Priestess Alex, don't be blinded by a person's appearance. High Priestess Anthony's aura disappeared from here. They are the only residents nearby. Satan won't believe it if you say that it has nothing to do with them. Anthony's status had always been lower than that of the young and promising Alice, so he was very unconvinced. This time, he finally seized the right opportunity, so he naturally did not hesitate. Alex was speechless. Although she wanted to speak up for Qin Haodong, she couldn't say much about the missing high priest of the divine court. Besides, she couldn't find a suitable explanation for Anthony's disappearance. Balderrama's face flashed with pride and he said to Qin Haodong, hurry up and hand him over, or we'll start searching. Yankovic said aggressively, the high priest Anthony disappeared from your place, so you can't get rid of the suspicion. If you can't hand him over today, you will bear all the consequences. He had a good relationship with Alice. One of them was the youngest red priest, and the other was the youngest paladin. They were known as the golden couple in the divine court. But for some reason, when he saw Alice speaking up for the handsome Wuxia man in front of him, he felt an inexplicable jealousy in his heart. Naturally, he wouldn't be nice to Qin Haodong. Search. Hand him over. Qin Haodong said with a sullen face, you want to search my private residence without any evidence. Isn't it too rude? Do you mean that whatever the people of the divine court say is true? Balderrama said, that's right. Whatever the people of the divine court say is true because we have the power. He had always been arrogant and never took ordinary people seriously. At this time, he had gradually lost his patience. Since you can say whatever you want because you have the power, then let me say something. Qin Haodong pointed to Yankovic and Balderrama and said, I think you two stole $1 billion from me. Now hand it over. After he said this, the people of the divine court were all stunned. Who was this guy? Could it be that he had a mental problem? How dare he speak to the holy paladin and the red priest like this? Balderrama came to his senses after the shock and shouted angrily, Wuxia man, let me see how strong you are. Then he reached out and drew a cross in front of his chest. Then he raised his hand and shot a holy light at Qin Haodong. In his opinion, although the holy light did not use its full strength, it would definitely make the Wuxia man in front of him suffer a little. But he did not expect that Qin Haodong just stretched out his hand and patted it gently. The invincible holy light disappeared in the air as if it had never appeared. This time, everyone was stunned. It seemed that this young man was not bragging since he was able to easily resolve the attack of the red priest. He did have a certain level of strength. Even Alice was shocked. She didn't expect that Qin Haodong was not only skilled in medicine, but also powerful in martial arts. Yankovic's expression also became serious. No wonder you can kill the red priest Anthony. It turns out that you are a Wuxia warrior. Then let me see how powerful the Wuxia Kung Fu is. He first put a big hat on Qin Haodong's head, then he was ready to kill the Wuxia man in front of him. For some reason, he felt that Alice treated the Wuxia man differently from the others. Just when he was about to make a move, suddenly there was a shout, boy, what right do you have to attack my boss? As soon as the sun set, another group of people came to the villa. These people were extremely fast, almost as fast as lightning. It was the group of people from Daddy Security Company, and Ma Wenjue was walking at the front. When they entered the villa, Qin Haodong looked at Ma and his expression changed slightly. You broke through so quickly. Ma Wenjue said proudly, boss, I'm sorry. I just broke through temporarily and came a little late. It turned out that they had made an appointment to come to the Empire of the Sun Never Sets together. However, as soon as they got off the plane, Ma Wenjue felt that he was about to break through, so he found a remote mountain area to break through to the Saint Realm and then rushed over with his people. Seeing the sudden addition of more than 30 people, the expressions of the people from the Divine Palace changed. Just now, from the speed of Ma Wenjue and the others, they could see that these people were all strong. Ma Wenzhua then turned to Yankovic and said, "Big guy, what right do you have to attack our boss? I'll play with you." He had just broken through to the Saint Realm and was eager to show off. In addition, this guy dared to be rude to Qin Haodong, so he naturally would not be polite. After saying that, he punched out. As a holy knight of the divine palace, Yankovic naturally would not back down. He also punched out. His punch was wrapped in rich holy light and was full of power. In the time it takes for a spark to fly off a flint, the two men's fists collided with each other. After a loud bang, a huge wave of air forced the surrounding people to retreat. Yankovic was the strongest among the holy knights. According to the cultivation of Wuxia warriors, he had touched the threshold of the middle stage of the Saint Realm, but he had not yet broken through. However, Ma Wenzhua's strength was also very strong. Although he had just broken through to the Saint Realm, with the help of the Kailan holy body, he was not inferior in terms of strength. Under this punch, the two men were evenly matched and both took 3 or 4 steps back. This time, the faces of the people from the divine palace changed, including Alex and Balderrama, who showed a look of horror. They were almost the supreme beings of the divine palace and had always been proud and arrogant. They did not take anyone seriously except for the emperor. They did not expect that the Wuxia man in front of them was so strong. Yankovic did not gain any advantage and suddenly felt that he had lost face in front of Alex. After a roar, he rushed up again and fought with Ma Wenzhua. The two men were similar in strength and for a moment, it was hard to tell who would win. This time, the faces of the people from the divine palace became even more gloomy. Yankovic was the strongest on their side, but he could not gain any advantage. Balderrama said, "Red Archbishop Alex and Holy Hexagram, let's fight together." Chapter 834. In his opinion, Ma Wenzhua must be the strongest one on the other side. Now that he was restrained by Yankovic, it was the best choice for these people to take action as soon as possible. Without waiting for Alex's consent, he waved to the people of the divine palace behind him and said, "Let's catch this Wuxia man together." They also brought a dozen low-level priests and grand knights today. These people were going to attack Qin Haodong after receiving the order. Chen Fugue snorted and said, "Do you want to compete in numbers? Brothers, do it." After he gave the order, 30 members of Daddy's security company behind him rushed forward. The lowest level of these people was at the 7th level of the Supreme Power Realm. In terms of martial arts cultivation, they were much stronger than the Grand Knights and priests. In the blink of an eye, more than a dozen people were knocked to the ground. They were beaten black and blue and fled like rats. On the side of the divine palace, apart from Yankovic who was fighting, Alex and Balderrama were the only ones left. Balderrama was furious and said, "Wuxia man, you're courting death." Then he raised his hand and drew a cross in front of his chest, ready to activate the secret method of the divine palace, the great prophecy. But just as he drew a horizontal stroke with his right hand, suddenly a golden light flashed in front of him. Then he felt a pain in his ear and red blood flowed down. Then, with a clatter, his right ear fell to the ground. Balderrama was shocked. This was too terrifying. If the target of this blow was his head, he would have gone to see the Divine Lord now. He looked up and saw Qin Haodong holding a golden sword in his hand, looking at them coldly. "I'm going to kill you like a dog." After a cold shout, the Xian Yuan sword flew out again and pierced a transparent bloody hole in Yankovic's right arm. Yankovic quickly stopped after being injured. This time, all the people of the divine palace were stunned. What kind of cultivation was this? Especially Balderrama and Alex, they were the most frightened. As red-clothed high priests, although they had a high status, their physical strength was not much different from that of ordinary people and was not much worse than that of mages. Although their spells were powerful, they needed some time to prepare before each spell was cast. Lower-ranked high priests needed even more time, and the red-robed high priests needed much less time. But no matter how short it was, it would still take time, unless one reached the level of the divine emperor and directly used God's blessing. This period of time was nothing for ordinary people, but it was absolutely fatal for a master like Qin Haodong. He would probably be killed before he could cast his spell. Balderrama was an example. Because of this weakness, the Scarlet High Priest always teamed up with a knight. As a warrior, the knight could better protect the High Priest. But now the strength of this young man was too strong, even Yang Kuei could not block his blow. In this situation, what room did they have to resist? Only then did Balderrama realize what Qin Haodong meant by speaking with his strength. It turned out that Qin Haodong was indeed much stronger than him. In the face of Qin Haodong's immense power, Balderrama and Yankovic were terrified. They did not even dare to treat their wounds, afraid that they would be killed by Qin Haodong's sword if they were distracted. They could only let the blood from their wounds drip to the ground. Alice recovered from the shock and quickly said, "Dr. Qin, you have to calm down. There is no hatred between us. There is no need to kill." Hearing her words, Qin Haodong restrained his momentum, and Yankovic and Balderrama were relieved. Seeing that they were no match for them at all, Yankovic said, "Let's go." The others also had the same thought, and they turned around to leave. "Wait." But at this moment, Qin Haodong stopped them and said in a cold voice, "Did I let you go?" Balderrama said angrily, "Qin, what else do you want?" Qin Haodong said, "I was sitting here drinking tea, but you people suddenly broke in. You wanted to search and fight, and now you want to leave. Do you really think we Wuxia people are easy to bully?" Yankovic said, "Qin Haodong, we are from the Divine Court. Don't go too far. The Divine Court realm? What a big brand." Qin Haodong sneered, "You have seen my strength. Do you think the Divine Court is afraid of me, or I am?" Balderrama shouted, "Qin Haodong, don't be too arrogant. Although you are very strong, you are still no match for the Divine Court." Yankovic also said, "I admit that you are very strong, but you are vulnerable in front of the Divine Emperor." Qin Haodong said lightly, "You are right. I am not as strong as the Divine Court, nor can I beat the Divine Emperor. But what if I stand on the side of the Dark Parliament?" As soon as he said this, Alex and the other two revealed looks of panic in their eyes. Although Qin Haodong was not as strong as the Divine Court, he and his men had already shown amazing strength. If these people stood on the side of the Dark Parliament, the consequences would be unimaginable. In the past, the Divine Court had a certain advantage in the battle with the Dark Parliament, but it was very small and they still could not completely destroy the Divine Court. If Qin Haodong joined forces with the Dark Parliament, the situation would immediately change. At least they would not be able to protect the Grand Duke André's mansion. Once the Holy Virgin was in danger, they would not be able to absolve themselves. Alice said eagerly, "Qin, you can't do this. You shouldn't be the enemy of the Divine Court." Qin Haodong said, "Miss Alice, I never wanted to be the enemy of the Divine Court, let alone the friend of the Dark Parliament. I am just a Wuxia person and I don't want to get involved in the fight between you two. I came to the Rising Sun City to do something. But you saw the scene just now. The Divine Court is relying on its own strength to be aggressive, isn't it? There is some misunderstanding in this matter. It is indeed our fault." Alice originally only had a good impression of Qin Haodong, or she was grateful for his help. At this time, she was in awe of the strong. She turned to Yankovic and Balderrama and said, "You two reckless guys, apologize to Dr. Qin quickly." Qin Haodong's words just now had completely hit the Achilles heel of the two people. In the face of the strong, they could only lower their proud heads. "I'm sorry, Mr. Qin. We were wrong just now. We sincerely apologize to you." Yankovic gave Qin Haodong a knight's salute, while Balderrama bowed his head and admitted his mistake. Qin Haodong said with a smile, "There is a saying in Wuxia. If an apology is useful, why do we need the police?" Hearing this, Alice said eagerly, Qin, you can't do this. As a human being, you must not stand on the side of the Dark Parliament. Miss Alice, don't be nervous. I have no intention of joining forces with the Dark Parliament yet. He saw Yankovic and Balderrama again. But we have just agreed that whoever has the strength can speak freely. Since I am stronger than you, pay me back the $1 billion you owe me. Balderrama and Yankovic almost fell down. It seemed that no one had ever dared to blackmail the Red High Priest and the Paladin since the establishment of the Divine Court. What's more, the other party asked for $1 billion. Qin Haodong said with a playful face, you are the Red High Priest and the Paladin. Don't tell me you can't even take out this money. Yankovic said with a bitter face, Mr. Qin, to tell you the truth, we really don't have that much money. Although they were noble, they were not businessmen. It was already good enough for them to have tens of millions of dollars in savings. They really couldn't take out $1 billion. Qin Haodong said, if you can't take out the money, it will be difficult. I always keep my word. Since I said I want $1 billion, I can't take less. Otherwise, none of you can leave. This, Balderrama and Yankovic were completely dumbfounded. Not to mention how Qin Haodong would treat them if they stayed, just the fact that the Cardinal Priest and the Paladin had been detained would be a huge blow to the reputation of the Holy Palace. Alice said, Qin, we are friends. How about you let this go for my sake? Although Qin Haodong had never targeted her, as a member of the Divine Court, she couldn't just watch her companions being detained here. If we are friends, we can discuss this matter. Qin Haodong's main enemy now was the alien demon, so he didn't want to be on bad terms with the Divine Court. He said, Miss Alice, if you can prove your friendship with me, I can let them go immediately. How can I prove it? Qin Haodong pointed to his right cheek and said, since you kissed me on this side, the other side has been very dissatisfied. If you kiss me on this side, we can forget about what happened today. This, Alice suddenly blushed and froze. She did kiss Qin Haodong's left cheek on the plane, but no one noticed at that time. She did it secretly. Now she was asked to kiss a man in front of everyone. How could she do that? Hearing this request, Yankovic roared angrily, no, absolutely not. Qin Haodong said, it's okay if you can't. You can either take out $1 billion or I can keep you here. I believe the Dark Council will be willing to pay more for you. Wuxia man, I'll kill you. Yankovic was furious. He turned around and pulled out the Holy Light Cross sword on his back. He rushed up to fight Qin Haodong. But before he could move his long sword, the golden Xianyuan sword had stopped in front of his throat. Big guy, don't provoke me, or I'll kill you. Even if you are a holy knight of the Divine Court. Yankovic was completely dumbfounded. He didn't expect the gap between them to be so big. The people of the Divine Court had an absolute advantage over the Dark Council. They could suppress them in terms of attributes, but their holy light power was useless in front of Qin Haodong. Alice hesitated for a moment and said, I agree. Then she stepped in front of Qin Haodong and kissed him on the left cheek. The people of the Divine Court were completely dumbfounded. The High Priest had always been their goddess, but today she took the initiative to kiss a man. Alice blushed and said, Dr. Qin, can we go now? Qin Haodong raised his hand and wiped his cheek. He said with a smile, of course. Miss Alice's kiss is worth $1 billion. Yankovic was so angry that his eyes almost popped out. Wuxia man, I'll make you pay for today's humiliation. Sure, as long as you have the ability. Qin Haodong said, but I advise you to keep a low profile now. Otherwise, you won't be able to leave if you anger me. Chapter 835. Yankovic glared at him angrily, but did not dare to say a word. He left with his men. After they left, Ma Wenjue said excitedly, Boss, how was it? I didn't embarrass you, did I? If I hadn't broken through the bottleneck of the saint stage, I wouldn't have been able to defeat this big guy. Qin Haodong did not look relaxed at all. He said, we still have to improve our cultivation as soon as possible. They are not the most powerful people in the divine court, and there is still an unfathomable Shen Huang behind them. We are no match for them with our current cultivation. Even if they are masters at the saint stage, the divine court and the Western Dark Parliament can easily find them. We have no advantage at all. Hearing this, Ma Wenjue said with a bitter face, Boss, our cultivation speed is fast enough. If it weren't for your elixirs, we wouldn't have been able to create so many masters. But cultivation is not something that can be completed overnight. If we want to become masters, we have to go through a process. You're right, but sometimes there are exceptions. Now is a good opportunity. Qin Haodong first set up a boundary that could isolate the aura of the divine court to prevent those people from feeling the aura of the holy hexagram. Then, he took it out and held it in his palm. Boss, what is this? Ma Wenjue took the holy hexagram in his hand and asked. This is a sacred object of the divine court. It's called the holy hexagram. Those people just came for it. If any of you can get the approval of this thing, you will immediately get the inheritance of the red-robed high priest of the divine court, which is equivalent to a master at the saint stage here. After hearing this, the eyes of the 30 members of the Daddy Security Company lit up. Although they had been eating elixirs like jelly beans during this period, there was a limit to the speed of their cultivation improvement. Moreover, after reaching the 9th level of the Supreme Power Realm, it was extremely difficult to cross the threshold of the saint stage. Now that they saw a way to improve their cultivation effortlessly, everyone immediately rushed to try it. Boss, let me have a try. I think my physique can be approved, boss, I'm a rare martial arts genius. I'm very talented. Let me have a try, boss, I think this thing is tailor-made for me. Let me have a look. Ma Wenjue held the holy hexagram on his body and tried to move it around, but there was no reaction in the end. After that, Chen Fugue took it again. He first wore it around his neck, then held it in his palm. He tried on several parts of the body, but he still did not receive the legacy's approval. It did not take long for all 30 of them to try from start to finish. In the end, the holy hexagram was still dim. Clearly, it had not found a successor it acknowledged. In the end, the holy hexagram returned to Qin Haodong's hand. He took it and looked at it. Thinking about Alex's body, he suddenly had an idea. Which of you is better at English? I. Many of the people from Daddy Security Company had been special forces before and had performed tasks all over the world, so there were many people who knew foreign languages. Nearly a dozen people stood up. Qin Haodong asked again, who has been a spy? Boss, I've done, another 4 or 5 people stood up. Qin Haodong called out a fair-skinned and handsome man among them. Zhang Feiyang, it's you. Zhang Feiyang immediately stood up excitedly. Boss, what do you need me to do? You stay and wait for me here. The rest of you can leave now. Qin Haodong asked Ma Wenjue to leave with the rest of the people. He did not want to concentrate his strength in one place at the moment. Then he chose an empty room and walked in. He took out the Shenong tripod and began to refine elixirs. He had now figured out that if he wanted to get the approval of the holy hexagram, he had to have no impurities in his body. The purer the better. Alex was known as the youngest red-clothed high priest by virtue of this body. When he was in the cultivation world, he had obtained a kind of elixir called cleansing elixir. This elixir was used by some big families to purify the body when carrying on the family line. The purpose was to make the future generations have better qualifications. After taking this elixir, the impurities in the body would be discharged and become extremely pure, just in line with the current requirements. Half an hour later, the elixir refining was over. 9 crystal-clear cleansing elixirs appeared in Qin Haodong's palm. He put away the other 8, took one out of the room and gave it to Zhang Feiyang. Take this elixir. Zhang Feiyang took the elixir and threw it into his mouth without asking what kind of elixir it was. All the people of Daddy Security Company trusted Qin Haodong 100%. Even if they asked him to die, they would not frown. Soon after the elixir entered his body, the surface of his body began to overflow layer by layer. However, Zhang Feiyang was also an expert at the 8th level of the Supreme Power Realm. He had also taken the body-refining elixir before, so there were not too many impurities. It only took him 10 minutes to get rid of them. Go rinse and come back to see me. Zhang Feiyang agreed and walked into the bathroom. Soon, he came back. Qin Haodong put his hand on his pulse and scanned his body from head to toe with his spirit. He could not help but nod with satisfaction. Now the purity of Zhang Feiyang's body was no less than that of Alex. Such a pure body would definitely be recognized by the holy hexagram. After doing all this, Qin Haodong took Zhang Feiyang and Lei Fu out of the villa. They went to the foot of a hill 10 kilometers away. After giving them some instructions, he took out the holy hexagram again. Zhang Feiyang took the hexagram. This time, it was very different from before. As soon as the holy hexagram touched his palm, it immediately shone brightly. Not only did his body feel much lighter, but there were also many things in his mind. After changing his body, he finally won the recognition of the holy hexagram. What appeared in his mind were the inheritance of the divine court, various ways to use the holy power, including the great prophecy. Boss, I did it, I finally did it. Feeling the powerful power in his body, Zhang Feiyang cried out excitedly. Qin Haodong nodded and said to Lei Fu, you try it with him. See how powerful the inheritance he received is. See if it can compare to the other high priests in red. Yes, master. Lei Fu agreed. Then, with a long howl, he transformed into the Golden Wolf King. Be careful, little guy. After saying that, Lei Fu jumped and pounced on Zhang Feiyang like lightning. Zhang Feiyang was already prepared. He raised his hand and drew a cross in front of his chest. Then, he pointed at Lei Fu and a ray of holy power shot out. Lei Fu raised his hand and punched the holy power. Then, with a scream, he flew backward. His extremely hard fist had been burned by the holy power. Zhang Feiyang, who had just mastered this different power, was not satisfied and wanted to continue. Lei Fu quickly said, no, this is abuse, not a fight at all. Qin Haodong said, what level do you think his holy power is at now? Lei Fu said, much stronger than Anthony. It should be about the same level as Alex. Qin Haodong nodded and said, that's good. Now you can be considered to be a double cultivator of magic and martial arts. In the future, go to the divine court and be a high priest in red. Don't easily expose our relationship. I will contact you when I need you. Zhang Feiyang said excitedly, got it, boss. Qin Haodong reached out and touched his face. Zhang Feiyang's appearance immediately changed greatly. He was like a different person. Well, you stay here. I think it won't be long before the people from the divine court come. Just follow our previous plan. Zhang Feiyang said, don't worry, boss. I'm the best at being a spy. Everything went in an orderly manner. Qin Haodong took Lei Fu back to his villa. On the other side of the divine court, Alex and the others left Qin Haodong's villa and stopped more than 10 kilometers away. Yankovic said angrily, Alex, you shouldn't have kissed that Wuxia man just now. It's all because of you two. Alex said with a gloomy expression, besides, I have nothing to do with you. I can kiss whoever I want. Yankovic was speechless for a moment. He had been pursuing Alex, but she had always ignored him. Balderrama said, let bygones be bygones. What should we do next? Anthony died in such a mysterious way. How are we going to explain this to His Majesty? Yankovic said, everyone saw that the Wuxia boy has a strong cultivation. He must have killed Anthony and hidden the holy hexagram. We should report it to His Majesty immediately and ask him to kill this Wuxia man and avenge High Priest Anthony. Alex frowned and said, you're being too presumptuous. Are you saying that a capable person is the murderer? You can't think that he killed Anthony just because he has a high cultivation. Besides, the holy hexagram is a sacred object of our divine court. No matter can block its aura. How can it be hidden? Seeing that the woman he liked was speaking for Qin Haodong, Yankovic was furious again. Do you like that Wuxia boy? It's obvious that Anthony's aura disappeared from their house. He must be the murderer. Alex was also angry. Yankovic, can you be more reasonable? I'm just stating the facts. Besides, it has nothing to do with you who I like. Even if I like him, so what? Seeing that the two of them were arguing again, Balderrama quickly persuaded, stop arguing, you two. Our top priority now is to find the holy hexagram as soon as possible. Yankovic said, do we still need to find it? As long as we kill that Wuxia boy, we can find it immediately. Alex was about to say something when her expression suddenly changed. I feel the aura of the holy hexagram. Balderrama said, I feel it too, but the aura is a bit strange. It seems that he has found his inheritance. Yankovic said, that's impossible. Every time a high priest in red dies, our divine court has to spend a lot of effort to find his successor. How can he find the inheritance so soon? Alex said, let's go and have a look. After that, they rushed in the direction of the holy hexagram. When they arrived at the scene, they found a handsome Wuxia man standing there with a dull expression. He was wearing the holy hexagram. The holy hexagram was shining, which was obviously a sign that it had recognized him as its owner. Seeing that the person was a Wuxia man, Balderrama asked, who are you? Where did you get that thing on your neck? Zhang Feiyang said with a confused face, I don't know what's going on. I was originally a tourist from Wuxia. I got lost at night and suddenly saw this pendant, so I picked it up and hung it around my neck. Unexpectedly, it suddenly lit up and I suddenly had a lot of things in my head. Chapter 836. Alex and the other two were stunned. Since when did the inheritance of the holy hexagram become so simple? And he even chose a Wuxia man. When he came to his senses, Yankovic cried, no, it's impossible. It's impossible for a Wuxia man to be recognized by the Lord God. I can't be associated with a despicable Wuxia man. Since he had just been humiliated by Qin Haodong, he hated all the Wuxia people. Alex said, Yankovic, what are you talking about? Have you forgotten the rules of the divine palace? No matter who he is, as long as he is recognized by the holy hexagram, he will be our red priest. Yankovic said, that's impossible. The divine palace has existed for thousands of years and there has never been a Wuxia man. It's even more impossible for this Wuxia man to be recognized by the holy hexagram. He must have used some despicable means to create an illusion for us. I'm guessing that he must have killed Anthony and taken the holy hexagram. I'll kill him now and take it back. After that, he took out the holy cross sword on his back and stabbed at Zhang Feiyang. Zhang Feiyang reacted very quickly. He raised his hand and drew a cross in front of his chest. Then he pointed at Yankovic and a light sword condensed by the holy light shot out. The light sword collided with Yankovic's holy cross sword and made a muffled bang. Both of them took 3 steps back respectively. Yankovic was shocked. He did not expect that he could not take advantage of Zhang Feiyang at all. Alex and Balderrama were even more surprised. They did not expect that the young man in front of them had received such a high degree of inheritance. He was not inferior to Alice, the most outstanding red priest in the divine palace. When he came to his senses, Yankovic raised the holy cross sword and was ready to attack again, but he was stopped by Alex. What are you doing? Don't you see that he has been completely recognized by the holy hexagram and is now the Red Priest of the Divine Palace? Do you want to start a civil war? Yankovic cried, No, I can't be associated with a Wuxia man. I'm going to kill him, take back the holy hexagram, and then find another inheritance. Alex was completely angry. Yankovic, stop messing around, okay? According to the will of the Lord God, everyone in the world is his people, regardless of skin color or race. What right do you have to exclude a Wuxia person? Yankovic's expression was the same, but he still said unwillingly, but there has never been a Wuxia person in our divine palace before. The past is the past. Perhaps the Divine Lord is blaming us for not fully carrying out his will. That's why he made the holy hexagram recognize a Chinese. This, Alice's words were clear and logical, and the truth was right in front of them. No matter how courageous they were, they wouldn't dare to openly go against the will of the Lord God. At that moment, Balderrama said, Let's not argue anymore. There is indeed something fishy about this matter. Let's report it to the sacred city and let the Emperor God decide. Alice said, That's right. Only the Emperor God has the final say in this matter. Before the sacred city makes a decision, according to the rules of the divine court, he is now our companion, the Red High Priest of the divine court. Since things had come to this point, Yankovic could no longer object. He could only snort coldly and walk towards Duke Andrei's mansion. Zhang Feiyang followed behind them, walking side by side with Alice. He was not nervous about the Emperor God's decision. Qin Haodong had already explained it to him before. It was a strange story that a Wuxia person had obtained the inheritance of the holy hexagram. This matter would soon spread out. Even the Emperor God could not publicly deny a Wuxia person. Otherwise, how could he spread the so-called equality of all living beings around the world in the future? Therefore, this matter seemed to be reported to the sacred city, but in fact, there was already an answer. Moreover, even if the divine court did not accept him, with his previous 8th-level cultivation and his current holy power, no one could pose a threat to him as long as the Emperor God did not come, including the aggressive Yankovic. When the sun rose the next day, the whole city of the rising sun was restored to a thriving scene. Most of the dark creatures had hidden themselves. In the dark world, if one had not reached the level of Vampire Duke, it was impossible to walk under the sun, including some ordinary werewolves. Sunlight was fatal to them. After Qin Haodong got up, he washed up and enjoyed the breakfast that Lev had prepared for him. Then they drove to the city of the rising sun together. According to Klinsmann's explanation before his death, the alien demons were probably hiding in the empire of the rising sun. However, they only had such a rough information and did not have a specific direction to look for, so they wandered aimlessly in the city of the rising sun. Near noon, Qin Haodong's cell phone rang. He looked at it and found that it was Alice, the president of the World Medical Association. Miss Alice, what can I do for you? On the other side of the phone, Alice said eagerly, Qin, can you come to the empire of the rising sun? Do I need your help here? Qin Haodong asked, do you need my help? Did something happen? Alice said, well, the daughter of Grand Duke Andrei of the Empire of the Rising Sun is seriously ill, but we can't find the cause at all. We want you to come and help us make a diagnosis. Can you come from Wuxia as soon as possible? The patient's condition is very bad. I'm afraid it will be too late if you are late. Grand Duke Andrei's daughter. Could it be the awakened Holy Virgin? Qin Haodong immediately dispelled this idea. The awakened Holy Virgin should not be sick. A noble person like Grand Duke Andrei should have several daughters. He said, Miss Alice, I'm glad to tell you that I'm traveling in the Rising Sun City now. Can you tell me the specific location? My God, you actually came to the Empire of the Rising Sun. God bless you. Alice said, I'll send you the location of Grand Duke Andrei's mansion now. After that, she hung up the phone, and soon a location information appeared in Qin Haodong's cell phone. Qin Haodong's location was not too far from Grand Duke André's mansion. Half an hour later, they arrived at the gate of a manor. When he arrived, Alice was already waiting there with an anxious look on her face. This patient brought her great pressure, not only because she was the daughter of Grand Duke André, but also because she was a person highly valued by the divine court. It was said that she was about to be awakened. Under these two identities, as the president of the World Medical Association, she felt great pressure. If she couldn't cure the patient, she couldn't bear the responsibility at all. However, the patient's condition was extremely strange. She had done all the necessary examinations, but she couldn't find anything wrong with her. She was at her wit's end, so she turned to Qin Haodong for help. Seeing Qin Haodong get out of the car, Alice immediately came up to him, took his hand and said, "Qin, I've been waiting for you. If you hadn't come, I really wouldn't have been able to do anything." Qin Haodong said, "What's the patient's condition? How can you not find the cause?" Alice said, "She has a fever, is unconscious, and occasionally has convulsions. I've tried everything, but I still can't find the cause." Hearing this symptom, Qin Haodong's heart skipped a beat. He felt that it was somewhat similar to the zombie virus infected in Wangshan village in Yindian province. He asked, "Has the patient been to the mountains recently, or has she been in contact with bat-like creatures?" Alice shook her head and said, "I've asked. The patient has been staying at home recently and hasn't gone out." After hesitating for a moment, she said, "The patient's condition is a little special. You'll know later. I really can't say." Then she led Qin Haodong into the door and walked into the manor together. The bodyguards at the gate of the Duke's mansion knew that they were doctors invited by the family, so they didn't stop them. Qin Haodong asked, "President Alice, how many daughters does Grand Duke André have?" "Only one." Alice saw that there was no one around, so she whispered, "I heard that this is a person highly valued by the divine court. She's about to awaken some saintess. I don't know the specific situation. Anyway, you must be careful and don't get yourself into trouble." Qin Haodong was secretly amused. He didn't expect that he would meet the saintess of the divine court so soon. At the same time, a trace of doubt arose in his heart. Not to mention the saintess, even Alice, with her extremely pure physique, wouldn't get sick. Why did the awakened saintess suddenly fall ill? Could it be that something went wrong during the awakening process? They walked forward as they talked. Qin Haodong keenly found that there were many people of the divine court hiding in the Grand Duke's mansion, including knights and priests of all levels. It seemed that even during the day, the divine court didn't relax the guard here. 10 minutes later, they arrived in front of a 3-story European-style villa in the middle of the manor. The security here was more strict than in other places. At the front door of the villa, he saw 2 old acquaintances. They were the Holy Knight Yankovic and Cardinal Balderrama, who had left him the night before. At the same time, Yankovic also saw him, and his face immediately darkened. "Wuxia man, what are you doing here?" Alice said, "Mr. Yankovic, this is Dr. Qin I invited. Please let us in." "Absolutely not." Yankovic said angrily, "You can ask other doctors for help, but he can't." Alice said, "Dr. Qin is the best doctor I've ever seen. Are you making things difficult for me by doing this?" Yankovic said, "He's probably the murderer who killed High Priest Anthony. This kind of person is extremely dangerous. What if he kills the saintess?" Qin Haodong turned to Alice and said, "Miss Alice, as you can see, it's not that I don't want to help, but I can't." Alice was completely anxious. She said with a cold face, "Mr. Yankovic, Dr. Qin is the medical sage of Wuxia. How could he be a murderer? If you don't let me in, I can only say sorry about the patient's illness." Yankovic said, "I don't care that much. I just want to protect the safety of the saintess. This Wuxia man must not go in." Alice was so angry that she couldn't say anything for a moment. Just then, Alice came out of the room. After seeing Qin Haodong, she was slightly surprised and said, "Dr. Qin, why are you here?" Alice said first, "Miss Alice, I invited him to help. If there is anyone in the world who can cure the patient's illness, it can only be Dr. Qin, but Mr. Yankovic won't let us in." Alice glared at Yankovic and said to Qin Haodong, "Dr. Qin, please come with me." Yankovic still wanted to stop her, but Balderrama signaled with his eyes. Under Zhang Xian's gaze, Zhang Xian decided to bear with it. Qin Haodong followed Alice into the villa and came to a bedroom. When he saw the patient lying on the bed, his expression changed. He never thought that the saintess would be her. Chapter 837. The woman lying on the bed was Cathaway, the reporter from the Eye of the Earth he met in Yindian province. He didn't expect that she had such a hidden identity. However, at this time, Cathaway looked extremely strange. From her face down, her skin had become like jade, smooth and crystal clear. Qin Haodong could even see the hidden blood vessels under her skin. At the same time, a strong holy power enveloped her whole body, slowly changing her physique. This should be the manifestation of the awakening of the Holy Virgin. Alice said, "Dr. Qin, hurry up and have a look. The patient's condition is very strange." Qin Haodong walked to the bed and reached out to grab Cathaway's arm. A cold feeling came from his fingertips, as if he was really holding a beautiful statue made of jade. He put his fingers on her pulse, which was still beating normally. It took a long time to feel her pulse this time. As time went by, he slowly frowned. It took him a full 5 minutes to withdraw his hand. Judging from her pulse, Cathaway's symptoms were that she had been infected with the zombie virus. But the problem was that the zombie virus developed by Dr. Jin's was genetically targeted and had no threat to white people. How could she suddenly get sick? Alice said, "Dr. Qin, take a look at her body again." Then she gently pulled down the blanket covering Cathaway's body a little, revealing the upper part of her chest. Qin Haodong was slightly stunned. He saw that on Cathaway's chest, from top to bottom, the Holy Maiden's awakening stopped there, and below it was a black line, which seemed to be blocking this change. The two sides were engaged in a silent battle. He scanned it with his spirit again and found that the black line was indeed the zombie virus. After thinking for a moment, he seemed to understand what was going on. Although the targeted genetic virus developed by Dr. Jin's had not been infected before, it was not that she had not been infected with these viruses, but that they had been hidden in her body. Originally, it was peaceful. If she was an ordinary person, she would not get sick for the rest of her life. Unfortunately, Cathaway was the Holy Virgin of the Divine Court. This time, the awakening of the Holy Virgin somehow stimulated the virus and it suddenly began to get sick. Alice asked nervously, "Dr. Qin, how is it? Have you found the cause? Can you cure it?" This morning, she had gathered all the experts of the World Medical Association for a consultation, but no one could come up with a decent treatment plan. They didn't even find the cause of the disease. Now Qin Haodong was her last hope. Qin Haodong nodded. "I already know what's going on. It's not too difficult to treat." "That's great. Qin, you're amazing." Cathaway was so happy that she almost jumped up. If it weren't for the fact that she was in a ward, she would have cheered loudly. Alice had been watching them. After hearing Qin Haodong's words, she said, "Dr. Qin, will your treatment affect the Holy Virgin's awakening?" As the saying goes, one's position determines one's thinking. As the red-robed high priest of the Divine Court, she cared more about Cathaway's identity as the Holy Virgin. If Qin Haodong's treatment affected Cathaway's awakening as the Holy Virgin, it would not be worth it. Qin Haodong said, "Her current condition is caused by the awakening of the Holy Virgin. If these viruses are not removed as soon as possible, I'm afraid the awakening will be stopped halfway, so we must hurry to treat her." Hearing this, Cathaway also said nervously, "Dr. Qin, hurry up. Please. After determining the cause of the disease, the treatment became much simpler. Qin Haodong took out the remaining blood purification pill and gave it to Cathaway. After thinking for a while, he took out a cleansing pill and put it into Cathaway's mouth. As the saying goes, the medicine will cure the disease. As time passed, the black line on Cathaway's chest slowly faded and eventually disappeared. The cleansing pill also removed the last bit of impurities in her body, helping the Holy Virgin clear all the obstacles to her awakening. Half an hour later, Cathaway slowly opened her eyes. When she saw Qin Haodong in front of her, her big holy eyes flashed with surprise. "Qin, am I dreaming? How did I meet you?" Qin Haodong said, "This is not a dream. You were sick just now, so I came to treat you. Thank you for saving me again." Thinking that Qin Haodong had saved her twice in Yundian province, Cathaway's eyes flashed with gratitude. "Dr. Alice, High Priest Alex, I want to talk to Dr. Qin alone." Seeing that the Holy Virgin was safe and sound, Alex nodded and walked out of the room with Alice. Cathaway looked at Qin Haodong and said, "Qin, what happened to me just now?" Qin Haodong told her about the outbreak of the zombie virus and finally said, "Don't worry, the virus has been completely removed. You'll be fine in the future." "Thank you." Cathaway thanked him again and said, "Are you afraid to see me like this?" "There's nothing to be afraid of. You're still so beautiful." Qin Haodong smiled at Cathaway and asked, "Aren't you a reporter for the Eye of the Earth? How did you become the daughter of Grand Duke Andrea? Now you're the Holy Virgin of the Divine Court. Can't a duke's daughter be a reporter?" It was difficult for Cathaway's expression to change. A smile flashed in her eyes. "In fact, when I was young, I was told by the Divine Court that I had the constitution of a Holy Virgin and that it would awaken after the age of 20. It was my lifelong dream to be a reporter, so before the age of 20, I became a reporter for the Eye of the World and traveled all over the world to collect the information I wanted. Now I've fulfilled my wish and can awaken with peace of mind." Qin Haodong asked, "Since you knew that a Holy Virgin would awaken, why didn't you go to the Holy City in advance? It would have been safer." Cathaway said, "The awakening of a Holy Virgin is random. No one knows when it will happen. I can't be imprisoned in the provincial capital like a prisoner. Once the awakening begins, I can't move at will, because the holy power is concentrated in this area. Once I leave, the awakening will stop, so I can only go to the Holy City after I complete the awakening in the Grand Duke's mansion." Qin Haodong asked curiously, "After your body awakens, you can't always look like this, can you?" Cathaway said, "Of course not. After the awakening, I will win the approval of the angel's heart, the sacred object of the Divine Court. At that time, I will return to the appearance of a normal human." "Oh." Qin Haodong nodded. "How long will it take for you to awaken?" Cathaway said, "According to the records of the Divine Court, the awakening of a Holy Virgin usually takes about 3 days, but because the specific situation is different, some may be longer or shorter. There is no specific time." The two chatted for a while, and Qin Haodong said, "Have a rest. I won't disturb you." After that, he was about to leave. Cathaway said again, "Qin, thank you." Qin Haodong said, "We're friends. You don't have to be so polite." Cathaway bit her lip, hesitated for a moment, and said, "Qin, the Holy Virgin of the Divine Court can also find a boyfriend." "Oh. Then I wish you happiness." After that, Qin Haodong left the room. Looking at his back, Cathaway had a complicated expression. In fact, before this, she had been very resistant to becoming a Holy Virgin, and it was for this reason that she ran out to be a reporter. But since she met Qin Haodong in Yunnan province, the figure of this Wuxia man flashed through her mind from time to time. She knew that she had fallen in love with this handsome young man. However, she also knew that Qin Haodong was excellent, but her identity as the daughter of the Grand Duke was not good enough for him, so she decided to become the Holy Virgin of the Divine Court. Qin Haodong didn't know about this. After going out, he said goodbye to Alex and was about to leave. But at this moment, a beautiful figure walked in. "It's you, Shiyumi. Why are you here?" Qin Haodong was a little surprised again. He didn't expect to meet Shiyumi here, who had been away for a few days. Shiyumi was surprised to see Qin Haodong. She rushed over and hugged his arm. "Haodong, we met so soon. It's really fate." Qin Haodong asked, "Didn't you say that you had something important to do? Why are you here?" Alex, who was next to him, said, "Dr. Qin, I didn't expect you to be familiar with Miss Shiyumi. She is a designer invited by the Divine Court to make clothes for the Holy Virgin. Because the news about the Holy Virgin needs to be kept secret, we told Miss Shiyumi not to tell anyone else." "Oh." Qin Haodong nodded. Perhaps only the invitation of the Divine Court could make Shiyumi say goodbye to the fashion fair in advance. Alex continued, "Miss Shiyumi is really dedicated to her work. When she came to the Rising Sun City this morning, I asked her to take a rest first, but she firmly disagreed. She came here to confirm the size of the Holy Virgin's clothes." She didn't mean it, but Qin Haodong's heart skipped a beat. Shiyumi had been away for 2 days, but she had just arrived in the Rising Sun City this morning. Where had she been in the middle of the day? What could be more important than the Fashion Week and the invitation of the Divine Court? Although he thought so in his heart, he didn't say it out loud. He said, "Then you go ahead. I'll go back first." Shiyumi didn't let go of his arm. She asked, "What are you doing in the Rising Sun City?" Qin Haodong said, "I have nothing to do, so I came here to play." Shiyumi said, "Where do you live? How long are you going to stay in the Rising Sun City?" Qin Haodong said, "I rented a villa on the outskirts of the city and I'm living there now. It's hard to say how long I'll stay. If I'm in a good mood, I'll play for a while. If I feel bored, I'll go back to Wuxia." For some reason, he had always been wary of Shiyumi. It was an instinctive reaction, so he didn't tell her his real plan. Shiyumi said, "That's great. I haven't found a hotel yet. Wait a minute. I'll go back with you as soon as I measure Miss Cathaway." Qin Haodong asked, "What are you going to do with me?" "Of course I'm going to live with you. Didn't we live together in M country? Do you have any other ideas?" Shiyumi winked at him naughtily and then quickly went into Cathaway's bedroom. A few minutes later, she returned. "Well, we can go now." After that, she naturally took Qin Haodong's arm and they left the Grand Duke's mansion together. After they got in the car, Shiyumi took Qin Haodong's arm and said, "I haven't had breakfast yet. I'm so hungry now. Shouldn't you treat me to a big meal here?" "Okay, you can choose whatever you want to eat." It was time for lunch and Qin Haodong was a little hungry. "I've been in M country for so long. I'm a little tired of Western food. I want to eat Wuxia food. Let's find a Wuxia restaurant." Qin Haodong nodded and said, "Okay." A few minutes later, they drove to a restaurant called Wuxia Dumpling King. As soon as they arrived at the door, they smelled the pure aroma of Wuxia food. He walked in with Shiyumi and Lei Fu. Because it was the rush hour, there were no private rooms available, so they chose a table in the hall and sat down. Chapter 838. The service here was pretty good, and the dishes were soon served. Looking at the steaming dumplings in front of him, Lei Fu, who had never eaten Chinese food, asked curiously, "Boss, what's this?" "It's called dumplings. It's the most famous delicacy in Wuxia. There's an old saying that dumplings are better than delicious, and they're more comfortable than lying down." Qin Haodong picked up a dumpling and put it on his plate. He poured soy sauce and vinegar on it and began to eat. After taking a bite, he nodded and said to Shiyumi, "It tastes good. It's indeed authentic Wuxia." Shiyumi said, "I haven't eaten dumplings for a long time. I'm going to have a big meal today." Lei Fu also wanted to learn how to eat dumplings, but the problem was that he had never eaten Chinese food and didn't know how to use chopsticks at all. He struggled for a long time, but he still couldn't put a dumpling on his plate. Smelling the fragrance of the dumplings, Lei Fu was a little anxious. "Master, how did you do it? How do you use these two small sticks?" Seeing his embarrassed look, Qin Haodong couldn't help laughing. A dignified golden-haired alpha wolf was stumped by chopsticks. He carefully taught Lei Fu for a long time before he managed to put a dumpling in his mouth. Delicious, dumplings are really delicious. Wuxia people are really great. They can actually invent such delicious things. While the three of them were eating, 7 or 8 people appeared in front of the door. The leader was a young man in his 30s. He was wearing a limited edition Omega gold watch and a suit handmade by an old Italian tailor. His hair was meticulously combed. Behind him were 8 bodyguards. Each of them was tall and imposing. It seemed that they were the young masters of a big family. The man was about to go upstairs and had one foot on the stairs. But at this moment, he suddenly saw Shiyumi, who was eating next to him. His eyes suddenly lit up. He immediately changed his direction and walked to Qin Haodong's table. "May I have a word with you, beautiful lady?" The young man said to Shiyumi politely, acting like a gentleman. Shiyumi glanced at him. She had seen many people like him who took the initiative to talk to her. She said, "Sorry, I'm eating. I don't want to talk to anyone." But the young man had no intention of backing down. He pulled a chair and sat next to Shiyumi. "Beautiful Oriental beauty, let me introduce myself. My name is Fabio, the heir of the Fabio family of the Rising Sun Empire." Shiyumi frowned and ignored him. She began to eat the dumplings on the plate again. Fabio continued, "Beautiful lady, our Fabio family has a world-famous film and television company. I think your temperament is too good, and you're beautiful. You're the most beautiful woman I've ever seen in my life. Are you interested in developing your career in the Western film industry? I guarantee that within a year, no, within half a year, I can make you a world-class superstar." After saying that, he looked at Shiyumi expectantly. In the past, he had used this method to flirt with many beautiful women. When those people heard that he could make them famous, they would immediately jump into his arms obediently. He believed that this woman in front of him would be no exception. After all, every woman had a dream of becoming a star. But the result disappointed him. Shiyumi put down her chopsticks and said coldly, "Are you done? If you're done, please leave. Don't disturb our meal." Fabio was stunned. He didn't expect this result. He said in surprise, "Miss, I don't know if you heard me clearly, but I can make you the most popular film and television star in the world." Shiyumi said, "Mr. Fabio, I can tell you clearly that I have my own career. I'm not interested in the so-called film and television star. You'd better lie to other women." "Miss, what are you talking about? How could I lie to you?" Fabio obviously didn't want to give up. He said again, "What I said is true. What career can be compared with a film and television star? With me, you can not only make a lot of money, but also become the most famous and popular star in the world. In your Wuxia language, it's called gaining both fame and fortune. Isn't that good?" Shiyumi had obviously lost her patience. She said impatiently, "I've made it clear to you that I'm not interested in film and television stars, and I'm not interested in you either. Would you please leave?" After being rejected one after another, Fabio was also angry. He tore off his gentleman's veil. "Wuxia women, I know that what you love most is money. How about you accompany me for a drink? How about $1 million for an hour?" He had just said so much just to trick Shiyumi into going with him. Now that the dream of being a star was not working, he began to spend a lot of money. In his opinion, $1 million for an hour was definitely a big deal. No woman could refuse it. Shiyumi was furious. There was such a man tempting her with money in front of Qin Haodong. which made her feel that her status had been lowered. "Get out of here. I don't want to see you again." Shiyumi's accumulated anger completely burst out. Fabio was stunned at first, and then he flew into a rage. He stood up and said, "You shameless woman. How dare you ask me, young Master Fabio, to get out of here in the Rising Sun City?" At this time, he had no scruples anymore. He waved to the bodyguards behind him and shouted, "Take this Wuxia woman away." Robbing people in public was an extremely domineering way, no matter where it was. However, when the people in the restaurant heard that they were from the Fabio family, not only did no one dare to stop them, but they also quickly left the restaurant. Even the waiters in the restaurant hid far away. It seemed that they were afraid of being implicated. In just a dozen seconds, only Qin Haodong's group and the people of the Fabio family were left in the huge restaurant. The hot-tempered Lei Fu had long widened his eyes, but without Qin Haodong's order, he couldn't do anything. Seeing Qin Haodong waving to him, he suddenly stood up, raised his hand, grabbed a bodyguard by the neck, and threw him out like a scarecrow. Fabio saw that Qin Haodong and Shiyumi were silent and thought that they were frightened by the fame of his family. At this time, Lei Fu's sudden attack startled him. "Boy, how dare you touch a member of our Fabio family? Cripple him for me." After hearing the order, the remaining bodyguards gave up on Shiyumi and rushed to Lei Fu together. These people were all bodyguards hired by the Fabio family with a high salary. Some of them used to be fighters in the underground boxing ring, and some were retired soldiers of well-known special forces. All of them had extraordinary skills. But compared to Lei Fu, the golden-haired Wolf King, they were far inferior. Before Fabio could come to his senses, all of them were put to the ground, wailing. Looking at Lei Fu coming over, Fabio said with a face full of fear, "What are you going to do? I'm telling you, I'm a member of the Fabio family. If you offend me, you won't be able to live in the Rising Sun City for a day." But before he could finish speaking, Lei Fu's big hand with black hair had already grabbed his neck. He suddenly couldn't say a word, and even breathing became an extravagant hope. Lei Fu carried him to Qin Haodong and threw him hard on the ground. "Boss, what do you think we should do with this guy?" Qin Haodong said lightly, "Didn't he say he wanted to drink? Then you should treat him to a drink." "Got it, boss." Lei Fu responded and grabbed a bottle of red wine on the table next to him. He raised his hand and unscrewed the cap of the bottle. Then, he inserted the glass shards and the red wine into Fabio's mouth. Ah! Ugh! Fabio's mouth was full of blood. He wanted to howl, but he choked on the red wine and coughed. He suddenly felt like he was drowning, and even his eyes turned white. This state lasted for more than a minute before Lei Fu finally poured all the red wine into his mouth. Fabio finally regained his breath and spat out the glass shards in his mouth. He pointed to Qin Haodong and shouted, "Boy, you must die today for offending me, Fabio." "Lei Fu, it looks like he hasn't drunk enough." "Give him another bottle," said Qin Haodong. "Got it, boss." Lei Fu stepped on Fabio's chest and inserted another bottle of red wine into his mouth. 2 minutes later, Fabio finally regained his breath. This time, he was no longer arrogant. Although he still looked at Qin Haodong with anger in his eyes, he didn't dare to say a word. He knew that the man in front of him looked gentle, but he was definitely a ruthless character. Qin Haodong said with a smile, "How was the wine, Mr. Fabio? Would you like another bottle?" "No, I don't want it anymore." At this point, Fabio could only lower his noble head. "I'm sorry. It was my fault just now. Please let me go." Qin Haodong didn't have much interest in such a small character. He waved his hand to Lei Fu and said, "Throw them out. Don't affect our meal." "Got it, boss." Lei Fu was a loyal servant. He carried out Qin Haodong's order meticulously. He grabbed Fabio's neck and threw him out of the restaurant. After they came back, the three continued to sit at the table and eat. The owner of the hotel ran over while trembling. "Please don't eat at my place, okay? I'm a small business here, and I can't afford to offend the Fabio family." He had been operating here for more than 10 years and knew very well the character of the Fabio family. They had always been vengeful. Besides, the heir of the family had suffered a big loss today, and he believed that they would soon launch an overwhelming revenge. If these people stayed here, he was afraid that he would lose his restaurant. Shiyumi frowned and said, "But we haven't finished eating yet." Lei Fu also said discontentedly, "Isn't he just a rich playboy? Why are you afraid of him?" "Ladies and gentlemen, you're not afraid of the Fabio family, but our small business is very afraid. What do you think about this? Today's meal is free, and I won't charge you. If you're still not satisfied, I can give you a sum of money and beg you to eat in other people's restaurants." It could be seen that the owner was really frightened by the Fabio family. Qin Haodong was also very unhappy. A good meal was ruined by these guys. But he knew the owner's difficulties, so he said, "Well, we'll come here for dinner another day." The three of them left the restaurant and were not in the mood to eat in other restaurants. They drove directly to the villa. But not long after they left the city, more than a dozen SUVs with roaring engines caught up with them and surrounded their Land Cruiser in the blink of an eye. Lei Fu stopped and saw dozens of men in black rushing out of the opposite car. These people were all armed with guns, and their leader was Fabio, who had just been beaten up. He was holding a Desert Eagle in his hand. He pointed to Qin Haodong's car and shouted, "Wuxia boy, get out of the car, or I'll shoot you into a sieve." Chapter 839. Seeing these people in front of him, Qin Haodong frowned. This guy was really haunting him. "Lo, get rid of these men." After saying that, Qin Haodong pulled Shimi, who was sitting in the back seat, into his arms. With the protective chi of a saint, he was not afraid of ordinary bullets at all, but the coverage was limited. He couldn't protect Shiyumi in the back seat, so he could only hold her in his arms. Lo agreed and was just about to get out of the car when a shadow flashed past in front of the gunman. After the afterimage, all of them were sent flying, and the spears in their hands were turned into scrap metal. In the blink of an eye, more than 30 gunmen were taken care of. It was clear that the newcomer was very strong. Fabio was shocked. He quickly raised his gun and looked at the figure. A very coquettish woman appeared in front of him. It was Vampire Prince Corkina. You. Don't come any closer. I'm a member of the Fabio family. If you come any closer, I'll shoot." Fabio shouted like this, but he was so scared that he almost couldn't hold the gun in his hand. "A lowly creature like you dares to disrespect my master." After Corkina finished speaking, she suddenly appeared in front of Fabio and grabbed his hand that was holding the gun. Her hand, which looked as white as jade, was harder than a steel claw. She directly crushed Fabio's hand, along with the desert. Of the eagle was also crushed into a piece of scrap metal. After kicking Fabio to the ground, Corkina turned to Qin Haodong in the car and said, "Master, what should we do with this guy?" Qin Haodong and Shiyumi got out of the car and came to Fabio. Lei Fu said bitterly, "Boss, this guy keeps causing trouble for us. Let's just kill him." Feeling Lo's murderous intent, Fabio was so scared that he almost wet his pants. He quickly shouted, "Don't kill me. I'm a member of the Phillips family. If you kill me, Grand Duke Nemechek will never let you off." "The Phillip family?" Qin Haodong asked, "Didn't you say that you were from the Fabio family?" Without waiting for Fabio to speak, Corkina said, "Master, the Phillip family is a vampire family, and Prince Philip is also one of the 6 vampire princes. Whether it was the divine court or the big families in the dark world, there were many businesses and affiliated families in the secular world that made money for them. The Fabio family was one of the affiliated families of the Philip family." Seeing that someone knew about the Philip family, Fabio was finally relieved. He endured the pain in his hand and shouted, "This woman is someone that Grand Duke Nemechek likes. Let me go quickly." Qin Haodong directly used mind manipulating and asked, "Who is Nemechek? Why did he catch Shiyumi?" Fabio said, "Grand Duke Nemechek is a member of the Philip family and now lives in our house. He asked me to come out and find a beautiful woman for him to eat, and also to become his descendant. Grand Duke Nemechek has always liked Chinese women, so when I saw this woman, I wanted to bring her back." A cold light flashed in Qin Haodong's eyes. "A little vampire duke dares to attack us Wuxia people." At this moment, a small black spot flew quickly from a distance. It was a bat with a golden halo on its wings. The bat was extremely fast. In the blink of an eye, it arrived in front of them and transformed into a middle-aged man in his 50s. He was the vampire duke of the Philip family, Nemechek. As a vampire duke, Nemechek was extremely proud. When he saw Fabio lying on the ground, his expression changed. "Who dares to attack my people? It's me. Do you have any problem with that?" Corkina's eyes were full of coquettishness as she spoke, but her eyes were full of cold killing intent. She had just felt her master's dissatisfaction with Nemechek. If she had not received Qin Haodong's order, she would have killed him at this time. There was a strict hierarchy among vampires. After seeing Corkina, Nemechek trembled with fear. How could he not know this vampire prince? He bowed respectfully to Corkina and said, "Dear Princess Corkina, Fabio is my vassal. I don't know how he offended you. If you are not satisfied, I can kill him now." Hearing this, Fabio's eyes flashed with despair. Even his master could not protect him. What hope did he have to live? He did not know who the young man in front of him was. How could he make the Grand Duke of the Philip family bow down to him? Qin Haodong said, "I heard that you asked him to capture Wuxia people as blood food." Compared with Corkina, Nemechek was not so in awe of Qin Haodong. "Yes, I asked him to do it. Sucking blood is the instinct of us vampires, and the blood of Wuxia people tastes better." Before he could finish speaking, a golden light suddenly flashed, and then a golden sword pierced his chest. Nemechek's eyes widened in surprise. As a vampire duke, his body was strong enough to resist bullets, but in front of this golden sword, he was as vulnerable as tofu. As a vampire, although his vitality was extremely strong, his heart was the root of his life. If his heart was pierced, there was no hope of survival. Qin Haodong did not care about that at all. He put away the Xian Yuan sword and said to Corkina, "I don't want to interfere in the affairs of the Western world, but I will never allow you to take Wuxia people as blood food." "Yes, master." Corkina said with some embarrassment, "But master, I can only restrain my own family. I really can't control the other 5 vampire families, especially the Philip family. Its master, Prince Philip, is much stronger than me. He belongs to the top of the 6 families. I can't order them at all." As she spoke, a golden-winged bat suddenly appeared in front of everyone, and then turned into a handsome middle-aged man. When he saw Nemechek on the ground, the man's expression immediately became gloomy. He said with a murderous look, "Corkina, how dare you attack the Grand Duke of the Philip family?" The man was Prince Philip. Corkina did not speak, but her whole body was tense, ready to fight at any time. Qin Haodong glanced at Philip and said, "I killed him. He dared to take Wuxia people as blood food. Killing him is just a small punishment. If you still don't repent, then I don't mind destroying your entire Philip family." "Boy, who are you? Do you know who you are talking to?" A bloodthirsty red light flashed in Philip's eyes as he spoke. Corkina said, "He is my master, Philip. I advise you to do as my master says, or you will be the enemy of our family in the future." "Your family?" Philip laughed wildly. "If it weren't for the fact that we are all vampires, I would have destroyed your small family long ago. I didn't expect that as a noble vampire, you would be so depraved and recognize a human as your master. You really disgraced the vampires. For the glory of our vampires, I will wash away this shame for ancestor Cain and kill this Wuxia man at the same time. After saying that, he moved his feet and rushed over like an arrow released from a bow. Although Corkina was not as strong as Philip, she was restricted by the master-servant contract. She could not retreat at this time, so she could only bite the bullet and fight him. The two vampire princes rarely fought together. Blood was the source of all the power of the vampires. Philip's blood was far purer than Corkina's, so he had an absolute advantage in both speed and strength. After fighting for a few minutes, Corkina was carelessly scratched by Philip, leaving 5 deep wounds on her left shoulder. She was going to fight to the death, but Qin Haodong called her back. "Well, you are no match for him. Let me do it." Qin Haodong called Corkina back and stepped in front of Philip. Philip glanced at Qin Haodong and licked his lips greedily. "Wuxia man, I haven't seen such a bloody food for a long time. It seems that I can have a good meal today." Then he opened his arms like a big flying bat, and his 2 sharp hands grabbed Qin Haodong's neck. Qin Haodong snorted coldly and punched Philip's claws twice in an instant. The 2 punches seemed to be very casual, but in fact, they were so powerful that Philip was sent flying. Philip was shocked. The vampires had a unique advantage in strength and physical defense, and he had never thought of losing to a human. But before he could come back to his senses, Qin Haodong had already followed him like a shadow, grabbed his ankle, and slammed him to the ground. "Wuxia man, you are looking for death." Philip was about to go crazy. As a noble vampire, how could he be beaten by a human in such a shameful way? In a rage, he used all his strength and clawed at Qin Haodong with both hands. The power of the vampires lay in their strength, speed, and defense, but they did not have any moves to speak of. They relied entirely on their own instincts to fight. Unfortunately, Qin Haodong's strength, speed, and defense were not inferior to the vampire princes, and he had an overwhelming advantage in terms of moves and experience. In the end, there was only one result of the fight between the two, and that was that Philip was beaten. In just a few minutes, the gentlemanly prince had been beaten up like a dog. His hair was disheveled, and he was in a sorry state. His expensive suit had become a tattered one, and 2 panda eyes hung on his pig-like head. Finally, Philip found an opportunity to get rid of Qin Haodong and flew into the air. "Wuxia man, how dare you treat me like this? I will not forgive you sooner or later." He was now completely convinced. He knew that he was no match for Qin Haodong, so he could only use his advantage of flying to escape. Qin Haodong looked at him coldly and said, "I will give you one last chance. From now on, you and your people are not allowed to fight against the Wuxia people, or die. Wuxia man, what right do you have to give orders to the noble vampire princes? Come up if you can." The Western world had a rule that they were not allowed to invade the Eastern world. Therefore, although Philip had lived for thousands of years, he had never fought with a master from Wuxia. He did not know that saints also had the ability to fly. In his opinion, as long as he flew into the air, he would be in an invincible position. "Ignorant thing, you've brought this upon yourself." Qin Haodong stopped talking nonsense with him and instantly appeared above Philip's head. Then, a golden sword slashed down from the air. Philip was completely scared. He did not expect that Qin Haodong not only had the ability to fly, but he was also so fast. In a panic, he stretched out a hand to grab the golden sword to block it. Generally speaking, when one reached the level of a vampire prince, their skin was comparable to steel, and even ordinary swords could not hurt them. But sadly, he was facing the invincible Shenyuan sword. After a flash of golden light, Philip was directly cut in half, and his broken body fell to the ground with a thud. Chapter 840. After killing Philip, Qin Haodong put away the Shenyuan sword and said to Corkina, "From now on, you will take over the Philip family. Then spread my ban. If any vampire family dares to attack the Wuxia people again, they will end up like Philip. Corkina said, Master, it's easy to take over the Philip family, but it's very difficult to completely control them. They have many Grand Dukes, and I can't stay there all the time. That's easy. You can choose a qualified Grand Duke from the family and bring him to me. I'll help him promote to the level of prince, and then you can take over the Philip family. That's great, Master. Corkina said happily, I have a daughter named Avril. Although she's just over 1,000 years old, she has already reached the level of Grand Duke. Is she okay? Of course. Bring her to me. Corkina was now his servant, so Qin Haodong certainly did not mind helping her grow a little. Thank you, Master. Although vampires had a long life, their fertility was extremely low. Corkina had only had one daughter for so many years. She was naturally very happy that she could grow into a prince. After dealing with the matter here, Qin Haodong took Shi Yumi and Lo to the car and left. As for Fabio and the gunmen he brought with him, they were all handed over to Corkina. Their lives were in the hands of this vampire prince. After Qin Haodong left, Cathaway's Saintess awakening returned to normal, which made the people of the Divine Palace rejoice. At this time, the Emperor's decree officially confirmed Zhang Feiyang's identity as the Red High Priest, and he would officially become a member of the Divine Palace. As Qin Haodong had guessed, the news that a Wuxia person had obtained the inheritance of the Holy Hexagram spread throughout the Western world in an instant. In order to maintain the tolerant attitude of the Divine Palace, the Emperor naturally could not oppose it. Therefore, for the first time, a Wuxia person was among the Red High Priests of the Divine Palace. Although Yankovic was extremely unhappy with this decision, he had no choice. He could not openly oppose the Emperor. Allah said to him, I've already said that you can't be prejudiced against the Wuxia people. The Divine Lord is tolerant. All humans are his people. Yankovic shook his head and said, I'm not prejudiced against Wuxia people. I just don't think Qin Haodong is a good guy. Alex said, you can't say that. Have you forgotten that he saved the Holy Maiden of the Divine Court just now? If it weren't for him, Cathaway's awakening would have been extremely difficult. But I still feel that something is wrong. Anthony must have died in his hands. Perhaps he is an undercover agent sent by the Dark Parliament. Alex said with dissatisfaction, how is this possible? Do you think that an undercover agent of the Dark Parliament will kill one of our cardinal priests and save our saintess? Don't you know who is more important to the Divine Court? Just then, Great Knight Hulk hurriedly walked in from outside. Miss Alex, something big just happened. What is it? Hulk said, our people just received news that Qin Haodong killed Prince Philip of the Blood Clan and his subordinate Grand Duke Nemechek. Alex asked, do you know why? Because Nemechek of the Philip family wanted to kill Miss Shiyumi, whom he had taken away. Qin Haodong killed Philip in a fit of rage. At the same time, he issued a ban on all the Western vampires, forbidding them from attacking the Wuxia people. Yankovic said, selfish guy. He only knows how to protect the people of his country. Alex glanced at him and said, do you want him to order the Blood Clan not to drink all human blood? Do you think it's possible? Yankovic was speechless. Not allowing the Blood Clan to drink blood was like not allowing humans to eat. It was impossible. He said with dissatisfaction, I really don't understand why you keep speaking for that Wuxia guy. I'm just stating the facts. Didn't you just say that he is an undercover agent of the Blood Clan? How did he kill a prince of the Blood Clan in the blink of an eye? Yankovic had nothing to say, but his resentment towards Qin Haodong deepened. Alex said, take some people to guard here. I'll go out for a while. Yankovic had a bad feeling in his heart. Where are you going? Alex said, I'm going to visit Dr. Qin. I think he is too mysterious. There are many things about him that we haven't discovered yet. Yankovic said anxiously, Alex, do you like that Wuxia guy? Alex frowned and said, don't make it so complicated, okay? I just want to investigate for the divine court. He is too mysterious. And I'm free. It has nothing to do with you who I like. Alex, it's not like that. Yankovic said, I'm just worried about your safety. I think it's dangerous for you to go to his place alone. I'll go with you. Alex said with dissatisfaction, are you spying on me? Yankovic quickly said, no, I just want to have a look. But I don't like you to follow me. Alex, you just said that we are all free. You have no right to stop me. But if you leave, who will be responsible for this place? Yankovic said, Balderrama and the others will be there, and it's not too far away. If something happens, we can come back in a few minutes. Well, you can come with me, but remember to keep your mouth shut. Don't have any conflict with Mr. Chin. Okay, I'll listen to you. In order to protect Alex, Yankovic agreed. They left the Duke's mansion together and rushed to Qin Haodong's villa. After returning home, Qin Haodong felt that he did not have a good lunch. In the evening, he cooked a large table of delicious dishes. Just when he was about to have dinner with Shi Yumi and Lei Fu, the doorbell suddenly rang. Feeling the two bright auras outside the door, Qin Haodong frowned slightly. He didn't know why the people of the divine court came at this time. Lei Fu went to open the door and Alex and Yankovic came in. Seeing Yankovic, Qin Haodong's face became cold. What are you doing here? Did another red-robed high priest of the divine court go missing? As a paladin of the divine court, Yankovic had always been arrogant. When he was scolded by Qin Haodong as soon as he entered the door, he immediately became angry. But just when he was about to lose his temper, Alex stopped him with a stern look. Mr. Qin, we're here as guests. Don't you welcome us? Alex said and sniffed. What smells so good? Could it be that Dr. Qin made delicious food? Can we have a taste together? Among the people of the divine court, Qin Haodong had a good impression of this straightforward red-robed high priest. He nodded and said, since you're here, let's have dinner together. Then he invited them into the dining room and everyone sat down to eat. It smells so good. Alex did not put on any airs as a red-robed high priest. She sat down and began to attack the plate of braised eggplant in front of her. Unfortunately, she did not know how to use chopsticks. She tried several times, but failed to eat the delicious food. In the end, Shi Yumi took 2 sets of Western-style knives and forks. Then she forked a piece of eggplant into her mouth. It's delicious. It's so delicious. I've never eaten such delicious food. Alex said and forked another small pie. She took a bite and said, it's delicious. Why is this pizza so strange? Why is the filling in it? And the filling is so strange. Qin Haodong was speechless and explained, this is not pizza. It's our Wuxia gourmet pie with the filling of san xian. San xian. Are they 3 kinds of immortals? Alexis asked with a surprised expression. Well. Qin Haodong explained, they're not immortals. They're fresh and delicious. There are chives, eggs, and shrimps in it, so it's called san xian. Anyway, it's delicious. As she spoke, Alice had already finished the small pie on her plate. Then, she unwillingly forked another piece over. She observed the pie and asked, it's so strange. There's no gap at all. How did you put the filling in? Well, in the face of such a problematic high priest, Qin Haodong was really helpless. Could he still eat happily? At this moment, the door opened and Corkina, the vampire prince, walked in with her daughter, Avril. When she saw Yankovic and Alex sitting at the table, she was stunned. Obviously, she didn't expect these 2 people to eat in her master's house. Yankovic naturally knew Corkina. They had just fought in the Grand Duke's mansion last night. He stood up and drew out the Holy Light Cross sword on his back. What are you going to do? When he was about to make a move, Qin Haodong said coldly, "This is my home and they are my guests. I don't care what grudges there are between you, but you're not allowed to fight here." Seeing that Qin Haodong was unhappy, Alex stopped Yankovic and said, "Mr. Qin is right. We're here as guests, not to fight. Sit down and eat." Yankovic cried, "But they're dark creatures, vampires, enemies of our sacred city. As a paladin of the Holy See, how can I sit back and watch?" Qin Haodong said again, "I don't care if you're from the Holy Court or the Dark Parliament. There's nothing special here. As long as you're in my house, you're my guests. You can fight outside, but you're not allowed to do it here." Well, Yankovic originally wanted to ignore it, but he remembered that Qin Haodong had killed Prince Philip, the strongest of the vampire clan. He knew that this young man was extremely powerful. If he really annoyed him, he and Alex might not be able to gain any advantage. At this time, Alex pulled him back to the chair and said, "We're here as guests. Sit down and eat." Yankovic didn't say anything else after that. Korkina sat next to him with her daughter. Avril was dressed the opposite of her. She had long hair and was wearing a long white dress. She looked gentle and elegant. If one didn't know her background, they would really think that she was a lady. No one would think that she was the Grand Duke of the vampire clan. Qin Haodong looked around the table and couldn't help but feel a little amused. It was really a unique meal. The archpriest and paladin of the Holy Court, the Golden Wolf King of the Dark Parliament, and the vampire prince were sitting at the same table. If there was also a dark wizard, it would be perfect. At this time, a man wrapped in a black robe appeared at the door of the villa. It was the great wizard Sissy. Chapter 841. As one of the top wizards of the Dark Council, Sissy had also participated in the siege of Grand Duke Andrea's mansion. During the day, he met Qin Haodong by chance and immediately felt a familiar aura from him. He realized that the young man in front of him was the one who had broken the black witchcraft he had cast on Angel. However, Sissy was a man who would seek revenge for the smallest grievance and was extremely cunning. He knew that the Wuxia man in front of him must have some ability since he could break his black witchcraft. In the daytime, the power of his magic would definitely be greatly weakened. Therefore, he secretly made a mark on Shiyumi's body. After dark, he followed the mark and found this place. "Wuxia boy, come out and die." Sissy's voice was very unpleasant. It resounded in the night sky like a crow's caw, and at the same time, it gave people a sense of gloomy fear. Hearing that someone was disrespectful to his master, Lei Fu immediately got up and was about to rush out. Qin Haodong stopped him and said, "Wait a minute, let's go out together." His spirit was very strong. At this time, he had already felt that the dark aura outside the courtyard was very powerful. If Lei Fu didn't transform, he might not be a match for it. A faint smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. He turned around and said to Yankovic and Alex, "It seems that I have some trouble here. Let's go out and have a look." Alex and Yankovic were both guests. Since the master had left, they naturally felt embarrassed to continue eating here, so they followed Qin Haodong to the courtyard. When they saw Sissy standing at the door, Yankovic and Alex were both shocked. They had been enemies for many years, and they had just fought with him last night. Naturally, it was impossible for them not to know that he was a great wizard of the Dark Council. At the same time, Sissy also saw Alex and Alex, as well as the vampire Prince Korkina and her daughter standing next to them. The black robe on his body couldn't help but shake, which showed that he was surprised. A Wuxia man, a red high priest of the divine court, a holy knight, a vampire prince of the Dark Council, and a vampire Grand Duke. How could they be together? It turned out that it was Sissy who was looking for trouble with her master. Korkina was about to step forward, but Qin Haodong stopped her with a look. Although she didn't know what her master meant, as a servant, what she had to do was to obey. Qin Haodong said to Sisay, "Who are you? What are you doing here?" As a great magus of the Dark Council, Sisay had always been arrogant. Although he did not understand the situation before him, he did not change his mind about revenge. One of the most important reasons was that he had his own means of escape. Even if the opponent had a holy knight and a cardinal priest, he could still escape if he couldn't beat them. "Wuxia man, was it you who broke the black witchcraft I cast on that little girl?" Qin Haodong nodded and said, "You're the murderer who killed such a young child. According to the rules of our dark sorcerer tribe, anyone who dares to destroy our sorcery will have their fresh blood offered to the dark sorcerer god. So, you must die today. What's so great about being a dark magus? Can't you see that I have a grand knight protecting me?" Qin Haodong said to Yankovic with a playful smile on his face, "Mr. Holy Knight, am I right? They are dark creatures and enemies of the Divine Court. As a member of the Divine Court, you can't just sit back and watch." Although he could take care of Sisay himself, the guy next to him had just sat at his table and pretended to be cool. It was natural for him to use him as a free fighter. Yankovic's expression changed. Naturally, he did not want to be Qin Haodong's free fighter. So, he had not said a word and did not show it. But now that Sisay had said his righteous words again, as a holy knight of the Divine Court, he could not back down. He could only bite the bullet and stand out. "Sisay, with me, Yankovic here, don't even think about doing anything. I advise you to surrender as soon as possible and use the holy light of the Lord God to purify your dark soul." Sisay said coldly, "Yankovic, don't think that the people of the Divine Court are great. Today, I'm looking for a Wuxia man, but if you insist on standing out, I don't mind killing you too. Evil creatures of darkness, die." Yankovic shouted and pulled out the holy light cross sword on his back. A sharp holy light slashed out. Great Wizard Sisay lifted his black robe sleeve and flicked it up gently. A cloud of black gas flew out and wrapped around the holy light slash. Although the holy light could restrain dark creatures, it was limited. This cloud of black gas was too powerful. In the end, it melted into the night along with the holy light cross sword. Being able to easily block the attack of a holy knight, it was enough to show how powerful Sisay's magic power was. After blocking that attack, Sisay didn't stop. He raised his other sleeve, and a sparkling crystal staff appeared in his hand. "Yankovic, I'll let you taste the feeling of hundreds of beasts devouring your soul." After saying that, he dripped a drop of blood on the crystal staff. Then, black smoke came out of the staff and finally turned into the souls of beasts. There were lions, tigers, bears, and elephants. After being refined by black witchcraft, they were extremely powerful. They all pounced on Yankovic as if they were real. In the face of the powerful black witchcraft, Yankovic did not dare to be careless. He slashed with the holy light cross sword in his hand, and rays of holy light shot towards those beast souls. He was the most powerful holy knight in the palace of gods. The holy light cross sword in his hand was also a holy item passed down from the palace of gods. It was extremely powerful. A ferocious tiger beast soul pounced towards Yankovic. However, before it could get close, a ray of holy light had already split it in half and purified it. In less than a minute, the hundreds of beast souls that Sisay had released were all killed by Yankovic. After a small victory, he was obviously very proud. He shouted to Sisay, "Quickly kneel and beg for mercy. Let my Lord God purify your soul." Sisay's entire body was wrapped in a black robe. Even his face could not be seen clearly. However, from the slight trembling of his robe, it could be seen that he was extremely angry. Darkness descends. Lowly creature, sacrifice your soul, soul strangulation. After he finished chanting, an even denser black fog shot out from the crystal staff. However, this time, it did not shoot towards Yankovic. Instead, it flew into the air. The black fog stopped when it was about 10 meters above the ground. It formed an inverted top and then began to spin rapidly. After the black fog started to spin, it formed a black vortex. A huge suction force swept towards Yankovic. It was like a range hood, but also like a bottomless black hole. Yankovic's expression changed. He could already feel the huge power of the black vortex. In his mind, he had an urge to leave his body. If his soul was really sucked into the black vortex, he would be doomed eternally. Lord God, please bestow me power. Holy light slash. With a loud shout, the holy light cross sword suddenly burst into a dazzling light. Like a shining meteor, it flew towards the black vortex above his head. With a loud bang, the black and white holy light collided, setting off a violent whirlwind that swept in all directions. Yankovic's sword was very powerful, but it did not completely disintegrate the vortex above his head. The top formed by the black fog paused for a moment before spinning again. Soon, it returned to its previous state. Yankovic was secretly shocked. He had used all his strength in that sword strike, but he did not expect that he could not destroy Sisei's witchcraft. Seeing that the suction force was coming again, he had no choice but to slash again. However, the sword light could only alleviate the suction force. It could not completely destroy the black fog above his head. If this continued, he would die of exhaustion. After slashing more than a dozen times, Yankovic's head was already covered in cold sweat. The holy light he slashed out was getting weaker and weaker. It seemed like he could not hold on any longer. Although his soul was barely holding on and not being sucked away, under the pull of the black vortex, his originally elegant golden hair flew upwards, making him look like Lei Jinzi from the Eastern myths. His clothes were also in a mess, making him look extremely haggard. This situation could be seen clearly by the people around him. Qin Haodong still had a smile on his face. Ever since they met, this guy had repeatedly acted tough and kept causing trouble for him. It was only right for him to suffer a little. As for Korkina, Lev, and the others, they were all enemies of the Holy Palace. They wanted his soul to be sucked away by Sisei. However, Alex did not think so. After all, she and Yankovic were both from the Holy Palace. She could not watch her companion die under the black witchcraft. At the critical moment, she still made a move. God rules everything. God said that all dark creatures in the world should evolve. Purification. After Alex finished chanting, she pointed at the black vortex in the sky with one hand. The night sky suddenly lit up, and a holy light fell, covering the black vortex completely. Although Sisei had a slight advantage in the battle with Yankovic, he could not face the joint forces of the Red Priest and the Paladin. The black vortex was instantly purified by Alex's purification. Yankovic finally breathed a sigh of relief. He wiped the cold sweat from his forehead and tidied up his messy hair. He had fought with Sisei many times before, but he had never seen such a strange black witchcraft. He had almost suffered a great loss today. Most importantly, he had embarrassed himself in front of Qin Haodong. This made him feel ashamed. In a rage, he raised the holy light cross sword in his hand and shouted, "Sisei, I must kill you today. The people from the Holy Palace are really shameless. The two of you actually joined forces. I'll remember today's score and settle it with you later." Now that he knew he was no match for Alex and Yankovic, he stomped his foot lightly and turned into a black light, ready to leave. However, with a muffled bang, the black light that he had turned into hit an invisible wall and was directly knocked back. He did not even move half a step. What is this thing? Sisei was completely flustered. The reason why he had not panicked when facing so many people was that he had his own means of escape. However, the method that had always worked in the past had suddenly failed. He immediately panicked, and once again used his spell to fly out. However, like last time, the black light that he had turned into hit an invisible wall again and was bounced back. Alex and Yankovic were old rivals with Sisay. They knew that he had such a life-saving method, so they did not expect to kill him here. Now, they were surprised to see that he suddenly could not run away. Although they did not understand what was going on, after the shock, their faces were full of joy. If they could get rid of a great wizard of the Covenant of Darkness, it would definitely be a great contribution to the Holy Palace. Only Qin Haodong still had a calm smile on his face. He had just set up a trap around them. Without his permission, no one could leave. Chapter 842. Holy Light Slash. Just as Sisay was in a daze, Yankovic slashed out with his sword. The Lord of Gods controls everything. If the Lord of Gods says time stands still, time will stand still, great prophecy. Alice obviously did not want to let go of this rare opportunity either. She cooperated and used the great prophecy to seal the space around Sisay. Facing the joint attack of two gods, Sisay hurriedly released a ball of black gas to protect himself. However, how could he be a match for the Cardinal Priest and the Holy Knight alone? The ball of black gas was quickly purified by the Holy Light Cross Sword. When the black gas dissipated, Sisay's face appeared in front of everyone. It was an extremely horrifying face. Not only was there no color of blood, but there was also almost no flesh. It was just a layer of skin on his skeleton-like face. His two eerie eyes glowed with a blood-red light. Sisay, you won't be able to escape today. Die. Seeing that he was about to make a great contribution, Yankovic became even more excited. He raised the Holy Light Cross Sword for the second time. You want to kill me? It's not that easy. A hint of madness flashed across Sisay's strange face. He then quickly chanted a spell. Respected God of Darkness, I am willing to offer my life as a sacrifice. I beg you to cast the curse of darkness. Let these people become your sacrifices, curse of the God of Darkness. At the last moment of his life, this great wizard did not choose to wait for death. Instead, he used his life as a sacrifice to cast the most powerful black witchcraft, curse of the God of Darkness. After he finished chanting the spell, before the Holy Light Cross Sword could reach him, he turned into a cloud of blood mist with a bang. Strangely, after his body turned into a cloud of blood mist, it did not dissipate. Instead, it emitted a huge pressure, as if the God of Darkness had really descended. Qin Haodong was also shocked. He had set up the trapping formation to keep Sisay here. He did not want to leave another potential enemy alive. He also wanted Yankovic to fight with him until both of them were injured. However, he did not expect this guy to use such a terrifying black witchcraft. In order to protect the people on his side, he hurriedly took out the demon-vanquishing wand from his storage ring. The demon-vanquishing staff was a Buddhist divine artifact. After it appeared, it immediately sensed the aura of black witchcraft and immediately shone brightly. Qin Haodong breathed a sigh of relief and controlled the Buddha light to protect Shi Yumi, Alice, and the others. In order to seize the credit, Yankovic had already rushed in front of Sisay. He was far away from them, and the Buddha's light could not reach him. Even if Qin Haodong wanted to save him, he could not. All of this happened in an instant. The curse of the God of Darkness was released at the cost of one's life, so its power was naturally astonishing. Yankovic was scared out of his wits and slashed with all his might. Unfortunately, the little bit of holy energy released by the Holy Light Cross Sword could not withstand a single blow from the God of Darkness curse. In the blink of an eye, it was completely devoured, and his entire body was shrouded in a bloody mist. After letting out a miserable howl, the Holy Light Cross Sword fell to the ground with a clang. The bloody mist continued to devour, shrouding Qin Haodong and the others. In the bloody mist, there was a huge figure of a demon. It opened its bloody mouth and wanted to swallow all of them in one bite. However, the demon-vanquishing staff was a Buddhist divine artifact. The Buddha light it emitted was like an indestructible barrier, firmly blocking the bloody mist. A few seconds later, the demon let out an unwilling roar, and then slowly dissipated into the air. When the red mist dissipated, everyone heaved a sigh of relief, as if they had taken a trip to hell. There was only a crystal staff left where Caesar's office used to be. Alice hurriedly looked in Yankovic's direction, only to see that it was empty, and only a holy light cross sword was lying on the ground. Her face suddenly turned pale, and her expression was dull. Yesterday, they had just lost a red high priest, Anthony, and today, a holy knight, Yankovic, had died. For the divine court, this was something that had not happened in decades. Qin Haodong's expression was indifferent. He picked up the holy light cross sword and said to Alex, "Don't be too sad. After all, you people from the divine court have killed an advanced wizard. This is not a bad deal." Alice came back to her senses and shook her head. There are only 4 holy knights in the divine court. Now that one has been lost, I'm afraid it will be hard for me to explain to the emperor. Lev said, "What's there to explain? Sisei's black magic was too terrifying. If not for Master protecting us in time, we would all have died." Alice also knew this. She said to Qin Haodong, "Qin, thank you for saving me. This is nothing." Qin Haodong held the holy light cross sword in his hand and said, "This sword looks good. Is it a holy relic of the divine court?" Alice said, "That's right. The holy light cross sword is the same as our holy hexagram. They are both holy relic of the divine court. Only by obtaining its inheritance can one become a new holy knight." Qin Haodong's heart skipped a beat. He asked, "What are the conditions to obtain the inheritance of a holy knight?" "The holy knights of the divine court must be strong, brave, pure, and have a heart of justice." Qin Haodong said, "If that's the case, it'll be easy. I know someone who meets your requirements. He can inherit the inheritance of your holy knights." Alice said in astonishment, "Really? You're not lying to me, are you?" Generally speaking, it would take 2 or 3 years for the divine court to find an inheritor of a holy relic. Therefore, once a holy knight or a red high priest was lost, it would be difficult for them to recover their strength in a short time. It would also be a loss for the divine court. Qin Haodong said with a smile, "Miss Alice, how could I lie to you? How about this, you go to the room and rest for a while. I'll give you a vigorous holy knight later. He'll definitely be 10 times stronger than the old Yankovic." Alice nodded in confusion. At the same time, she had a glimmer of hope. If she could find the inheritor of the holy knight quickly, it should be able to ease the emperor's anger. Yumi took Alice and the others back into the room. Qin Haodong took out his mobile phone and dialed Chen Fugui's number. "Come here, there's something I need you to do." Ma Wenjue, Chen Fugui, and the others were lurking near his house. After receiving the order, Chen Fugui soon appeared in the courtyard of the villa. "Boss, what do you need me to do?" Qin Haodong raised the holy light cross sword in his hand and said, "I want you to inherit this sword and become a holy knight in the divine court." Chen Fugui said hesitantly, "Boss, will that work?" "Why not? As long as you inherit this sword, you'll have the strength of a saint. Don't you want to?" Chen Fugui said, "Of course I'm willing to improve my strength, but I'm a rough man. Can I be a holy knight?" "Don't worry about that. Just do as I say." After Qin Haodong said that, he took out a cleansing pill and gave it to Chen Fugui. As a former king of the army and a 9th-level supreme power master, Chen Fugui was strong and brave. At the same time, he had a righteous heart. What he lacked now was a pure physique. After eating the cleansing pill, the last obstacle was removed. "Try it and see how it works." Qin Haodong shook his hand and the holy light cross sword flew toward Chen Fugui. Chen Fugui reached out and grabbed the hilt. Suddenly, the sword shone brightly and many things appeared in his mind. This was the inheritance of the holy knight. As Qin Haodong expected, Chen Fugui became a holy knight of the divine court without any effort. Feeling the sudden surge of light aura, Alex ran out of the room. She was slightly stunned when she saw Chen Fugui. She didn't expect the Holy Light Cross Sword to have another inheritance so soon. "Miss Alex, this is my friend, Mr. Chen Fugui. He will be the new Holy Knight of the Divine Court." "Oh my God, how did you do it?" Alex felt that her brain wasn't working well. Yesterday, the Holy Hexagram had chosen a Wuxia man as its inheritance. Today, the Holy Light Cross Sword had chosen another Wuxia man. This not only broke the tradition of the Divine Court for thousands of years, but also subverted her understanding. "Miss Alex, I didn't do anything. It's just that this friend of mine meets the requirements you mentioned, so I asked him to come." Qin Haodong said with a smile, "Otherwise, do you think I have the ability to influence the inheritance of the Divine Court?" Alex agreed with his words. Whether it was the Holy Hexagram or the Holy Light Cross Sword, they were holy relics that had been passed down for thousands of years. Legend had it that they were the property left by the Lord God. Even the Lord God Emperor couldn't influence the choice of the holy relics, let alone the Wuxia man in front of her. Thinking of this, the doubt in her heart was dispelled. Qin Haodong said to Chen Fugui, "Show Miss Alex the inheritance you have obtained." Chen Fugui nodded, drew out the Holy Light Cross Sword, and slashed at the void. After this slash, there was a sharp sound of breaking through the air, and at the same time, a dazzling holy light shot out. Alex's expression changed again. The strength that Chen Fugui had shown was too powerful. Not only was the holy light more than twice as powerful as Yankovic's, but it also carried a sharp aura, which was something that no holy knight had. Of course, she didn't know that Chen Fugui had been a 9th-level Supreme Power Realm expert before, and now he could be regarded as a dual cultivator of the Divine Court and Wuxia martial arts. Moreover, according to the conditions of the Holy Knight's inheritance, he was much stronger than Yankovic in terms of strength, courage, and righteousness. Coupled with the effect of the cleansing pill, the degree of inheritance he had obtained was far higher than that of Yankovic. Korkina, Loeb, and the others were also shocked. If they were to fight against such a holy knight with their strength, they would probably have to turn around and run. Qin Haodong said to Alex, "What do you think? Are you satisfied with me as a friend?" "Qin, you really surprised me." Alex said, "But such a big thing has happened. I have to go back and report to the Lord God Emperor immediately." Chen Fugui's strength was naturally a good thing, but the appearance of two Wuxia people in the Divine Court was absolutely strange. She had to report it to the Lord God Emperor immediately. After that, Alex left the villa with Chen Fugui and rushed to Grand Duke Andrea's mansion. Looking at their backs, Qin Haodong's mouth curled into a playful smile. If the Red High Priest and the Holy Knights of the Divine Court were all replaced by his own people, how would the Lord God Emperor feel? After dealing with the Divine Court, he turned around and said to Korkina and Avril, "You two, come with me." After that, he took the two to the small valley not far from the villa. First, he set up an aura shielding formation, and then a lunar energy gathering formation. "You two are ready. I'll help you improve your strength." "Thank you, Master." Korkina said with a happy face, "You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.